Have you ever felt the universe pulling you towards something greater? A moment when everything changes, a pivotal point in history? That moment is now. The cosmos is aligning. Ancient prophecies, astrological signs, and secret codes all point to this singular event, the X moment. On Friday, October 25th, 2024, at 3 p.m. Pacific, join us live as David Palmer, the Leo King, unveils secrets long hidden from the world. Secrets decoded from the works of his Hypergate schools and 12 years of decoding. This isn't just another live stream. It's your final call to power. Imagine unlocking unprecedented personal strength, transforming your life with knowledge reserved for the select few, ascending to a higher state of being during humanity's greatest shift. Every civilization has its defining moment. This is the one that defines all civilization. This is yours, but time is running out. Hundreds of thousands have already embarked on this journey with David Palmer. They've transformed their lives. Now it's your turn. Do you want to fully understand the Leo King's biggest prediction in all time? The window to transform your destiny is closing fast. Will you let this moment slip away? Or will you step forward and claim the future that awaits you? Join us live on High Vibe TV, accessible worldwide. Visit highvibe.tv to secure your spot now. Prepare for a life-altering experience that will elevate your consciousness and unlock your true potential. The X moment is here. Are you ready to seize your destiny, or just think it's another day in time?
Hey, what is going on, everyone? It is David Palmer, Leo King, and this is your weekly sun sign horoscopes for this week of October the 23rd through the 29th, 2024. I almost said 23. Hope everybody's doing wonderful out there. Thanks so much for being a part of highvibe.tv. If you're not a part of highvibe.tv, I would definitely recommend it, especially through these times, to get all the astrology that we do, and of course, my weekly shows, my daily shows that you're missing out on. Also, I have an awesome and really big event that's actually going to be happening on Friday, live stream wise. It's the X moment, claiming your destiny, the live stream event. I put it on YouTube 10 months ago. I put it on Facebook 10 months ago. I've made some very extreme predictions for the spring of 2025. So this is not a joke. This is actually going into prophecy work, astrology, and extreme codes I've uncovered with the astrology that all merge at that point that's going to change human history for the rest of our lives. This is also going to be the beginning of me, which I haven't publicly been talking about, 2025 and what's ahead. So this is an event you don't want to miss, and truly making sure that you're on the right train, and more importantly, the right tracks into this new world that's going to get very, very beyond odd, but completely different than anything humankind has ever experienced. And for those that are trying to say you're copying the X, I was talking about this in 2021 before X was out, and showing that it's actually the Roman numeral 10. So it's different. X Factor spot. So go to highvibe.tv for that. It'll be happening. We've just moved it an hour back to 4 p.m. Pacific on Friday night. And that's 7 p.m. Eastern. And of course, even if you're not a High Vibe subscriber, you can still make the login, be part of the apps, be part of the website to watch the live, and always go into your library to get any paid videos. So you don't have to be a subscriber to get it. Or if you are a premium subscriber, you do get that video for free, and all those videos that are like that I do, those big specials. Definitely check it out. So before I just go off on everybody's sun sign horoscope here, this is about the battle that's beginning. I showed it in the thumbnail, and it's this battle between this big Mars and Pluto opposition. And this is going to take place up until that point that I've been talking about. The spring of next year. These are two planets that you don't want to be in opposition for more than the traditional day and a half. But I guess you could count it like, let's say, a week, the approach and then the separation. But to have it for this long, for this many months, and to have it at such pivotal points, I'm going to be talking about that in everybody's sun sign and rising sign horoscopes and where that's going to affect them for the next 7 months. While at the same time, of course, going into the astrology of this time and week. Of course, we're in Scorpio season and so forth. So just for anybody who's tagging things, don't just say this is just promo or so. I think it's important for people to hear this message at the beginning. I think people do a great disservice to a lot of us who put the work out there, especially this work that's free, and tag it up for you to get out of where there's actually important information of how it's going to be done, just to jump to your sign without actually, like, maybe I should see what the person has to say before they put it out there. So without further ado, and I know it's so funny, I'm reading the comments, so many people are like, be nice to my sign. It's like, hey, it's not about whether I'm nice or not. This is just where the astrology's at. It's not like I'm in control of the planets or something. You might say, well, you're in control of the interpretation. It's like, well, I think the interpretation's pretty based off of what the astrology is doing. It's clear as day. And a lot of the transits that we're in, remember, they've been long, whether they're the 3 outer planets or this Mars opposite Pluto, the Mars retrograde to come here in December, or, I mean, the list goes on. One more thing to state before I go into these horoscopes is that there are about, well, with all these sussy quadrants and stuff, there's like, I don't have enough time to go through every sign with every aspect. And this week is the odd aspects, the hard aspects, the weird aspects. And I can't cover them all. That's why I recommend that you go watch Deep Astrology to understand that and then apply that in your sun sign horoscope, because I literally can't tell every sign about this sun sessi quadrant to Jupiter, while at the same time that Mars is going to sessi quadrant Saturn this week. And what that means for them, well, I'm trying to also get you prepared for a 7-month Mars opposite Pluto that's going to also be in different signs and intercepting and doing weird things. So let's make that one make more sense. If we can, right? So, all right. So, that's right. So this system now, I wish they just put them in order, but of course they didn't. So Aries ascendant. Oh, I want this one. There we go. All right, Aries, we're in Scorpio season, and this deals with, of course, the 8th house, but it's a very potent Scorpio season for anybody, not just you. Every single person on the planet is feeling the Scorpio energy 10 times. The rulers of Scorpio, Mars and Pluto, are both being activated in disposition, and they're both beginning their opposition. And this is going to be a long opposition into the spring of next year. So if we're looking at this 8th house, before I even go into the traditional, like, oh, it's going to be about transformation, finance, taxes, sex, whatever. No. Let's look at what is it really dispositing. Pluto in the 10th and the last moon in Cancer this week in our lives that will oppose Pluto and Capricorn. So this has been 16 years. That's the moon that moves every 28 and a half days, right? So think of all the months, right? 12 months in a year, 16 years. Every month you've been going through this when it comes to your foundation, and where's that going on the basic level? That's why we see the line. I mean, you know, with the midheaven, right? And isn't it always interesting that the lines are on the ascendant and they're on the midheaven? You don't usually see the lines the other way. What's interesting about this is about your long-term when it comes to your emotional life, your foundation, your home life. And they have to find a way to come into sync, but there's a battle. So there's the bitterness. A good example would be Aries. Like, let's say you want to live somewhere really bad, but it's the wrong city because the job's in another place, right? So it's like, where's the compromise that has to take place? This is where you've had 16 years to really figure out, you know, where's your base at? Where do you want to be with that? But with Mars being the ruler of your sign, and we're seeing this Mars extremely slow, in shadow, in a long approach to this opposition to Pluto, and it's going to be here for a long time. You know, this is the volatility, kind of like the market, 8th house, about where you're at with whether it's the obsession of trying to attain something in career, something that you want to attain in long term, or more importantly, a goal, or trying to prove yourself, or trying to attain some sort of higher status in your life. What's been the cost emotionally? And so there's a victory with a battle that will be lost. You know, when I go live now, people call the 888 Leo King number like crazy. So I'm just gonna let the thing fucking ring. And it sends them to fucking, you know. Please don't call this place because you just want to get attention. Weird on this reading. What are you trying to get attention about? Maybe it's, one, not enough that you're putting into giving the right emotional attention, because there's going to be two parts to this, Aries. Either you're not really that good at giving attention emotionally to other people and really wanting to be there. It's like kind of the overemphasize, like, well, at one moment, like, so if you look at a whole month, it's like, well, I did do this really big thing for this one person or something. Okay, that's nice, but what about every day? What about all the time? So this caretaking element of your, whether it's yourself or others, right? We just went through a big 7th house transit with 1st house, 7th house, big eclipses for you. This 8th house energy that's dispositing Pluto, and we're just coming off the square. You know, I'm looking at this one like, wow, okay. You know, how bad do you want something? And is it going to a toxic length? And really, I'm looking at the gutting of your actual foundation. Like, how much are you just giving away too much where you're living your life for something more than actually enjoying the actual like recovery or enjoying the actual life? If we actually think about it, the other interesting aspect this week is, yes, this is a long-term aspect, this Mars-Pluto. We'll come back to it, but it's Venus in Sag that's going to square Saturn. And you've got Saturn in the 12th retrograde, Neptune in the 12th retrograde, and we've got Venus here in Sag, and it's going to square over to Saturn. And in this mutable energy, you could add Jupiter that's in your 3rd house here, creating this mutable cross that's kind of getting close with that moon that's going to be in Virgo. And we're going to see that by the end of this week. And when we really get to the end of this week, I'm telling you, I think for you, something is finally coming up to where you have to make a major decision that there's some positives to it, but there's also negatives. So I think that getting the whole enchilada is not the way it's going to happen in your life right now, especially with Saturn retrograde in your 12th, Venus in the 9th. It's also forcing you to go, maybe I'm not trying to like take away your beliefs or take away any of your positive understanding of things. It is much more about like having a hardcore reality check about, okay, did you think about all these things, right? Jupiter is having you rethink a lot of things. Maybe you've been aiming too big, or maybe you're not aiming big enough, or you didn't put all the pieces of the puzzle, or you thought that it was a puzzle, so it was like a kid's puzzle, but really it was one of those crazy like ones that we got when we were kids that would take you like a year to put it together. It's kind of like something is a lot more in the answers and the facts that are going to show up this week of what you had already probably predetermined and assumed was going to be the way you get there. So it's almost like you get there this week, but you get to this place and you didn't realize there was all this other stuff. So it's a reassessment of, do I want it anymore? So the thing that you've been really wanting so bad comes with more of a challenge. And it also is the big question, are you willing to sacrifice your personal life, your home life, your uncomforts, right? So I think a lot of this is like you can have both, but I think you're going to have to learn to shave some off here. But I would say that one of the more hidden parts, since we're in the 8th house with you, I think what you're hiding a lot about is your personal life. I think that, you know, it's almost like you just kind of don't want to go into that place. It's more, what am I doing with my career? What am I doing with work? But that's where this Venus, Saturn in the 9th and in this 12th house, in these Caden houses, bring up these more really far back places you don't want to really deal with. And even with Pluto that's in Capricorn dispositing Saturn and it's retrograde, and we're not seeing it station direct until the full moon in Taurus around the mid part of November. You know, this is a moment where it's going to feel like there's a lot of challenges or setbacks. I'm not telling you to quit, because it's not about quitting. It's more about, you know, there's going to have to be some things that aren't going to work out. And it's about accepting that bitter pill to swallow to get to where you want to go. So there is a cost for the good thing that you want. But the question is, if at the end of this week and coming into this next 7 months, is it what you wanted the whole time? So you better be damn sure what you really want. And you're in the toxic relationship month, the South Node Libra, Sun in Scorpio, Venus and Sag here in the square to Saturn and Neptune in your 12th. And if we look at the dispositing energy of the Sun, we go to Pluto, we go to Mars that are in opposition in your 4th and 10th houses. So it's like you might be dealing with toxic relationships to kind of escape some sort of unhappiness. But this, I think, is going back to these emotional houses, Scorpio, Cancer, and Pisces. And we see Mars sextile Uranus. We see Mars trine Neptune. But is this an excuse for bad behavior? Like, oh, I can maybe do this, and it feels like it's in alignment with spirit. But then there's that opposition of Pluto, and then more importantly, you got that Venus square Saturn. You got Saturn stationing in the next couple of weeks, and it's not really moving. So I feel like there's this, are you overall really understanding that like your personal life, your emotional space, the vulnerability, that's what has to come out. And the toxic relationship thing, it's kind of like, be careful what you step into here. Be careful what you wish for. Be careful what you are doing. And also it's about the reflection of like what you're actually doing on the biggest level, since really, if we actually think about it, if you're an Aries or an Aries ascendant, you're dealing with Neptune at the end of your 12th house. You got Saturn in this 12th house. So this is definitely where the power is, even because Pluto is dispositing Saturn, right? And the Sun is dispositing Pluto. So when you go up the hierarchy chain, we come back to Neptune. And for you, it's at the end of your 12th house. So there is this, you have to look in the spiritual mirror and be like, where have I not showing up spiritually good enough? Now, I'm not saying you're a bad person, But it's like we all have our flaws. We all have our places where we need to evolve and grow. And it's like, for some reason, Aries have this area of their life where it's either this feeling of a void or missing, or just missing the point when there's been, whether it's God speaking to you, because you could also have some sort of ethical battle this week because of Venus and Sag. Like, no, I believe I know what I'm doing, right? Like maybe you'll get more info with Jupiter and Gemini by listening. I think that Aries need to listen. And I think that they need to try to stop proving themselves. I think they need to just stop 100% knowing everything in this moment, because you don't know shit. You know shit that worked in the past, but you don't know shit of where you need to go now. And you also need to be making sure, whether it comes to business contracts, how it affects your personal life, and making sure that you understand. I know we're not in Mercury retrograde yet, but that Mercury Scorpio here that's getting ready for that opposition to Uranus, that Mercury that is in the 8th house, that can bring up a lot of contracts for you right now. With all this toxic relationship energy, it's almost like, are you willing to sell your soul for somebody or for a contract or for something? I think that you need to understand what you're getting yourself into in all areas. And then I also think that you need to understand what you've already gotten into, that you've put too much in and you're not getting anything back. So the positive here is all this Pisces energy is having you reflect to see, where do you kind of pull back a little bit? I think it's better right now for an Aries to pull back, assess, and also maybe pull back even a little more than you think, so you get a better and clearer vision. The best part about the 8th house is we can get to the bottom of things. We can emotionally, get to that nucleus of things, but you're going to have to dig in, right? There's a digging element in the Scorpio energy. And so whether you got to dig into your spiritual vibes more, which I would recommend, but if you're just doing this off material, or you're just doing this just because you have to have some sort of attainment, I'm telling you, it's just going to keep frustrating you. And I think that the last thing I'll say, that I don't even know what order I'm in of the kind of worries, but with Mars and Cancer in its fall position, it's slow, it's opposing Pluto now, is your anger. So I also think that the other thing that will happen to you this week, remember, I'm covering October 23rd through 29th. I don't even know what day the 29th is. I just do whenever I'm able to show up for the horoscopes. I don't go off the Monday, fucking Friday, Sunday thing. You will be in a position where a big decision has to be made, and how you deal with the emotions is going to test to see if you're actually up to par with where you want to reach in your life. So there's like a spiritual test of like, do you actually have it in you to actually get to where you want to go? Well, how is your relationship with your anger? How is your relationship with your reactions? How is your relationship with that? Because it's almost like, no, it's all been good. It's almost like you've been just smoking a bunch of weed spiritually and just like, I'm fine with all these areas, but you're not wanting to look at the subconscious things, And so I think that for you, that does bring up kind of like, you've gotten in over your head feeling to me. And also, whenever I see Mars in Cancer or Mars in the 4th house, we're in a hole. And so, this is a hole that you've kind of dug yourself in. And this 8th house is kind of having you eat the dirt in that hole a lot longer than normal and actually taste it to make sure it like, you get it now. So there is this kind of like, do you understand now? And this is going to last for 7 months. The good thing for you is it's putting up the fight of your life. And I know you like to have that fight. It just can't be in a negative way, right? But that fight to keep showing up, but it's about listening. That Spirit's the only thing that's in a guide. This Uranus and Neptune that is in guidance to Mars this week and throughout most of this next 7 months is really about whether or not, you're willing to actually let the universe come in. And especially with the Sun in Scorpio right now, it is going to be the biggest transformation that people have gone through in their last 16 years, for every sign I'm going to talk about today. But for you, it's very much so. It's like you're about to come face to face with what scares you the most. You're about to come face to face with like that transformation of like, okay, the fight really is like, how do you get out of this hole that you put your own self in? And there's nobody to blame but yourself. You can't blame other people, right? And it's also like, how well are you at executing skills? It's kind of like, I want to be a business owner. I want to be a CEO, or I want to make this big thing happen. Well, do you even want to do the work? Are you showing up for that kind of harder work and all the work for it? So you got to take down wherever there's fakeness, because I know you hate that. Ironically enough, this is where you look at where you're fake. Now, I'm not saying that to call you negative. I'm just reading the astrology, right? Like, you have to see, you have all these planets in the 12th and Neptune, the ruler, there. It's at the end of it, but it's not. And got Chiron in your own sign. We just had South Node Libra transits with the sun and eclipses, and now the sun's in Scorpio. Sorry, but it's dispositing Pluto in the 10th in opposition to Mars in the 4th house, which is like the worst place for you to have it. So I think that there's a lot of wounded, subconscious stuff coming out. And also, I really do have compassion for you, because I feel that you are like a wounded puppy that doesn't want to act like one and act like you're the most strongest dog in the kennel at the pound that's ready to get eaten by some fucking Haitians. I'm just kidding. Fucking. Maybe you want to be more vulnerable with where you're really at. And the other last part I'll say in context of just real basic, simple astrology is receiving. I mean, this is where the issue is. You always are, I will give it to you, Aries. You like to give it. What about receiving? Right? And also, the control issues are a big thing. Always trying to control the narrative isn't going to let you receive with that Pluto and Capricorn. And to get out of this hole, you can't control how you get out. That rope has to be handed down by other people, and you have to get the attention that's a positive way. And also that feels like, hey, at least you're here with me. At least you're vibrating with me, where it doesn't feel so, no. You got 2 calls on this one. So Spirit's calling, and guess what? I don't think you're answering the calls. And I think that's the problem. For real. I think that's your main problem. You're not answering the calls. All right, let's see what we got card-wise for you here. Go away. Thank you. You got the 10 of Wands reversed. So, I do feel like this is something's going to happen to you that makes you want to give up, and you can't give up. But also, where are you pushing so hard that it's actually not actually going to get there? So I think that you're getting a revelation this week that, oh, this isn't going to work out. I'm putting so much in, but I'm not getting back anything in return. But it kind of directs you in the right space to transmute that energy in a better way. But I still feel like there's a massive humbling event happening to you this week. And I wish I got a better way to give you that, but that's just where it's at. And it will be one of those where God kind of whispers in your ear and goes, I told you so. You already knew. So it won't be something that surprises you as much. It's what you feared the most. Isn't that interesting? All right, Taurus ascendant. So for you, it's an interesting place. I feel that Tauruses have this Mars-Pluto opposition beginning. Of course, the retrograde will be different. But at least we need to focus on the bottom of your chart and the top of your chart, but from that 3rd house, 9th house perspective. So that's been your mind. That's been the way that you observe life. I just want to tell you, Taurus, it's okay to change your mind about belief systems or not be so lock and loaded. You don't need to be pessimistic about things right now. I do feel like relationships for you with the sun in Scorpio, with Mercury here, they are helping feed into this. Does every person that can come into the very closed walls of a Taurus life have to believe everything that you believe? have to see your belief fully. What about you seeing their belief fully? Now, a lot of this horoscope is going to be about the walls that you have up. Because like Scorpio, 7th house with Uranus, of course, that's been in opposition, but also Mars here at the bottom of your chart, crossing over that, then it will cross back. It's like there's this mental high you've been on, something that's been stimulating you a lot. Maybe you've been communicating a lot, but it's almost like you're running out of gas energetically. And I think that for you, you're realizing like, man, I don't want to be dependent on something, a person or anything. And I think that you don't need to look at it as dependent on people. I think that you have to look at it as like, well, you can do a lot in this life with people. Joining forces is a great thing, but I feel like for you, it's like, gosh, the way that force and how it has to join has kind of gotten a weird way. And it's like you do the same thing over and over again. You're repeating the same pattern of like, okay, it's this kind of person, this kind of belief and all that. And let me find that. And once I find that, it'll work. And then it doesn't work. And it's always with you bailing out. Let's not forget that. It might feel like people bail on you. But a lot of this is like, hey, you got to look at the actions that you take around people subconsciously. Pluto, of course, in your 9th house, like when it becomes that you're the preacher, people walk out of the church when the preacher starts going a little nutso. Or there's also a disconnected energy that you've been playing around with already, that Pluto that's been in Aquarius. But I think that more importantly, though, that South Node in the 6th house is, it's like you don't want to get the health in order or listen to what other people are saying or get the advice. So it's really like you want to give the advice, you don't want to receive advice. And I think you always put yourself in the position where I want to be the advisor to a lover, or I want to be the advisor to this business partner. It's like, what about you fucking learning a little bit, right? Pluto at the end of your sign, end of Capricorn here. What, fucking 16 years of like, maybe even with all the advice you gave, what did you learn? Like, and who's the person that you can learn from? I think where a lot of that learning is socially, right? So I would say that the most socially incompatible people right now are Tauruses. They might look like it on TV and stuff, like, like, oh yeah, like they look at that, but like, no. Behind the scenes, it's more like, no, they're here and then they're checked out. They're doing their thing whenever they want and however they want. And that's the problem is like, socially awkward. If you think about this whole week and month with the sun in Scorpio, with Saturn being disposited by Pluto, and we could even include Mars, which are both in opposition at the moment. It's like this social communication belief issue. And then it's about these very powerful forces in your houses of dealing with relationships and people in the water houses there, and your mind and communication with Mars and Cancer, 7th house, Scorpio, and all this Pisces in the 11th, that it's become this place to where communicating emotionally in relationships you're not your big strength. Whether you're wanting to enter into one, it's like you're not knowing how to do it, saying the right thing, and then, oh, wait, hold on, I have all these values that I need to say now. It's like, oh, okay, you kind of already got it all slipped into gear, and now you're pulling all that. Or it's the opposite, right? Where, nobody even wants to get around you because you're kind of like in this, I want to do it my own fucking way. And you're wondering why it's kind of like crickets everywhere. So I think for you, it's like, how do you rebuild your belief system that, hey, there's a lot of good people out there. Hey, yeah, you are an advisor. Yes, you are somebody who knows a lot, but communicating your emotions, taking your walls down, being good socially. I mean, if we really take the Neptune transit, the last 12, 13 years have sucked for you socially. So, let's be real. You're the one who needs the help with the social aspect. And I think that this is the big lesson. I think that you're getting schooled, and I think that you're dealing with it rather well. Although I think that you have some opportunities here for help or people to come into your life. I think that you could actually resolve a lot of conflict at this time by letting go of that you're the know-it-all and you know what happened and you're the only one that knows, right? Like, get rid of this Pope mentality. And also, I think that there can be a revelation with the Mars, Uranus, Neptune aspects that are happening that are pretty positive here. For you to actually reach out to people and apologize for actions that you do, or to, you know, reconcile things. I think that this is really your big test, is like, you can't expand without having a structure. And for you, that structure is reliant deeply on people. It's reliant deeply on bonds. And for you, you've used to be the super glue to people. Now you're the worst glue stick that ever lived. It doesn't even stick. And nothing sticks to you. And it's really based upon you're the know-it-all. You're the one who has all the knowledge, and you're the one who knows the rules, and you're the one who picks and chooses how the communication should be, or even assumes what getting into clear communication space. Understanding your self-worth, I think, is something that you have a whole redo with Jupiter retrograde right now in your second. It's kind of like, hey, listen, you've been the shit before, you're not the shit now. So I think that there's been a really hard lesson over these last couple of weeks coming up to this, you know, period we are in October, Scorpio season, where you've been humbled with, shit, I'm not the shit. I'm not as badass as I thought I was. And there's kind of the writing on the wall, like, hey, like, if I don't start to understand how to like deal with people better and communicate better, and also try and do everything on my own and in my own way, I'm going to end up just kind of like dried up energetically and alone. And I think that's the scariest place for Pluto, as it will be ingressing into Aquarius in less than a month for the next 20 years. And I think for you, that is kind of this place where, does anybody actually care what you achieve if they're not your friends or they're not around you? Like, they're just people on the internet or likes or something like that. So you could be obsessed with more about what like people are in numbers off following counts and shit like that, opposed to the reality of like in real life. So I think that you need to look in real life at, where have you socially kind of gotten off track, and where have you socially, you know, where are those faults? How can you let your guard down more, learn to trust? And I think with Venus square Saturn in the 8th and to that 11th, it's about that trust with people. That's your big block. Like, you don't trust people and you don't let people in. And the sun's in Scorpio, you don't let people in. Your issue is that you don't have trust. Or the first second somebody looks like they're crossing the boundary, but they didn't even know it was a boundary, you're already ready to fucking shoot the gun and fire and say it's over. And that's turned into a problem. But again, what's kind of crazy is, on the outside, not anybody would really know it. You're really good at hiding things. Even the weirdest of quirky things right now. And there's some Tauruses out there having affairs, and that will come out. So, like, if you think you're safe with that, you're not. Well, you got the star card. So, I mean, it is a good card for you. I mean, it is saying, you know, this is a moment where I do feel like I'm talking to kind of what's been for you, and you're at this point where you're ready to listen and be like, okay, I get it, Leo King. Like, I'm ready to fucking listen to the universe. And that's a good thing. And it's okay to stay in that place. You don't need to always be like, what's the next move and where the next thing to go? It's like, it's pretty simple. Like, start believing again. Start loving, even if somebody's unlovable, right? Start loving. Like, start being in that energy where if they're not believing, like, show them how to find strength, but not to where you're getting them into a cult-like mind off how you think it should only be done. And when they don't do that, remember, people have their own convictions, belief systems, and not every single person has it the same way. And not only one person in this world has it right. And I think when you understand that, you'll go a lot farther. All right. That wasn't like horrible. All right, Gemini. Well, Gemini, this is definitely some tension. For you, I'm going to start with that Sun in Scorpio first. We're coming into this Scorpio season for you in the sixth house energy, where there's a lot to try and straighten out. Of course, that brings up health. Pluto in the eighth, dealing with anything, whether it's, I'm going to say things and they might be triggering, STDs, pregnancies, anything that really is dealing with your genitals, bowels. All right. And this is from stress. What's interesting is Mars in opposition for you. And then second to the eighth is you're afraid to confront your desires with what you actually want. It's like you have a desire that's like using a want, but it's not the exact one. It's like the value is not the same, but it's at least giving you what you want, right? So it's like we got Venus. That's also, I think, the big player for you this week in square to Saturn from the 7th house to Saturn here in the 10th. That's kind of an interesting place because, you know, those are two good houses for both Saturn and Venus to be in. But with Jupiter in opposition, right, you know, there's this big weird place where you're not really getting what you want. It's like the half-assed version of it. And I think now that we're in Scorpio, it's triggering this like, fuck, like, how do I actually get what I want? And it feels entangled. The entanglement is that Uranus, of course, in the 12th, afraid to let things go that I've been talking about with you. While at the same time, we are going to see this. What have you been doing with all these moon and cancers for the last 16 years? You have a need. But then when it comes to your wants, it's almost like I think you give away too much for the things that you really don't want. And I know that might sound crazy because the things that you really want, I think that you don't feel that you're able to supply what the other side of that might be, whether it's God, whether it's a person. I mean, relationships come up huge with Venus in your 7th house, scoring Saturn in your 10th. There's obviously a major issue about a relationship situation, one that's in sexual in nature or in a bonding element. Could be parental as well, right? But there's some sort of health situation or some sort of stressful situation that has come to this point to where you got to start looking in the places that you don't want to look. I think that for you, like, this is a Halloween of all Halloweens. The scariest things ever are in front of you that you're repressing, right? The breakup you don't want to do, or the getting into a relationship that you want to, but you're afraid, the going for the actual place you want to go in your life, to actually quit the job that's giving you security but not making you happy. Like, you're at like all these really extreme pivotal moments in your life where it's like, okay, you think that you're too far down the road to say, I don't want to do this, or I need to make a different change in my plans, especially with that Saturn and Neptune in the 10th. But I think that for you, a lot of this is like, you need to learn to give things to God more and trust in your actual primitive nature. I think that you're afraid of your primitive nature. I think that you're afraid you're going to be too extreme or too intense, when really the truth is you're actually not. Like, you're kind of like wallowing in this place of like, maybe you're listening too much to other people. Maybe you're listening too much to trying to be the hopeless romantic and it'll all be okay in the end and just stay positive. I think a lot of this, though, is some very interesting issues about the things you fear the most. And so that's why I want you to look at if there's something weird with your genitals, something weird with your bowels, something weird with sexual stuff. Because, like, or who you're connecting with, like, you know, if you feel sick or you feel weird or something off, and it's only because it's the person you're having sex with. This could be as extreme too as like you're being cheated on and you find that out, and it creates a stressful situation. But it's like, oh well, they're giving me all these things, and I don't I kind of need that. So it's like your needs are about to get checked by your wants, because what's happened is your needs have just let your wants take over, but they're not getting what they actually need. And so to get you what you actually need, you're going to have to actually go into Hades, Pluto in the 8th house, right? And you're going to have to make the hardest choices there of like where you say goodbye to situations that it's like you're not getting actually what your needs are met. You're getting your wants, but you're not getting your needs. And needs are needs. Wants are just wants. You can live with or without them. So I think that what's happened is you've kind of like replaced this idea of like what your needs are by wants. And what's happened is you've kind of gotten yourself into this place to where it's like you're overcommitted to things that you're not even have the energy for anymore. And the other part of this is financial, big financial battle. So that could be divorces, right? Especially with Venus in your 7th house, Jupiter in your 1st house. Very always auspicious time for divorces, and the Mercury retrograde coming to oppose that Jupiter in November. I think that for you, though, this battle of this Mars and Pluto in the 2nd and 8th house is really like you also may be revealed like a bunch of money's gone, or some, your partner loses a job, but, and they're not wanting to work and you have to take on more. Like there's something where your little dream life story that you were kept telling yourself was going to be okay and was so glorious isn't what it is, even though the whole time it was just putting lipstick on the dead fucking pig, putting lipstick on the dead body, putting makeup on that body. I used to use that on Deep Love Tarot. Remember, Gemini? It's like Pluto in your 8th, like that's your issue, right? Like you continue to keep putting the makeup on the dead body at the funeral. Like that's your job. That's what you're doing to your life right now. You could even be dealing with energy that feels like it's dead, and you're trying to keep injecting it with life. And that's going to be the issue for the next 7 months, is you're trying to inject life into something that's dead. And I'll be honest with you, I don't care how attached you are to people, a job, or any of these situations that you feel like you can't let go of. It's like the lesson of Pluto at the end of the 8th is we came here to be survivors, and we came here to thrive. So you don't want to be in survival mode, but you're kind of in survival mode masked as, I'm doing all these things that are making this okay. It's like really insane. And I think that the other part of this is like you're actually, and nobody knows this except maybe an astrologer or yourself, with Pluto at the end of the 8th, your desires and your secret desires are outdoing and outpacing the actual desires that are in your life. So you're thinking about your actual wants and needs that you don't have more, but acting like the ones that you have that are in reality, that are kind of like fluctuating in and out, and putting up kind of this like, no, I'm great, I'm fine, when you're not. And I think that frustration can get to you big time. This could also be about like, again, whether it's financial attachments, it also could bring up taxes, could also bring up you being stolen from money-wise, cheated on big time and being revealed, to wake you up to be like, what were you not paying attention to? Right? And this can really affect your health if you're not tuned correctly into this very deep well of understanding that your needs and your wants aren't being met. So in many ways, like it feels like the hardest transformation of your life, the same way that 2008 did for you. And it's almost like you've been running away from all of your problems, that life isn't always a problem. It's that you just don't want to really like see like, oh, this is where I can transform in this. Or the lesson of Pluto at the end of the 8th for you that's dispositing this, and with Mars in opposition, is you have an emotional need, but this is your problem, is that, you kind of put like, well, where's the next best thing? And then you jump to that eventually. The problem is that for you right now, it doesn't look like you can do what the next best thing is, because you've put yourself in a position where you didn't believe there was anything better, but there actually is. So it kind of is interesting. Maybe try that again, but you just kind of got over doing that. But that's your problem, is you're always looking for the next best thing. And you're thinking about it all the time. So another moral question with this Venus square Saturn would be like, if you really have integrity and you're really about making choices, shouldn't your relationships know about that? I mean, Venus by next week starts to oppose Jupiter and get into this really messy, fixed mutable T-square. And then, of course, we also have that moon in Virgo at the bottom of your chart, oppose Saturn. This is a very uncomfortable week. And the uncomfort for you is like, can you be real as fuck? Like for real, for real. Like, it's almost like stop putting on the show. Stop putting on the charade. And I don't know why my guy just showed me this. Stop playing the, let me play mysterious. That is not going to work. The only way through this moment for you in your life, Gemini, is 100% full transparency on who you are and what you really want in your life. And being honest to people. And a lot of that healing can happen with Chiron, when Jupiter in sextile, right? And that's in your first house. But with Chiron in the 11th here, it's like, fuck all the people who fucking you think that you need to keep, because you're kind of like, whenever the North Node or Rahu goes to the 11th, it's like by the time we've reached there, it's wiped out a lot of people, and it kind of leaves us with these little groups of people. And it's like, I'm telling you, they're going to be out of your life next year. So like, I think that for you, it's like, again, you're attached to this, like, I have to do this thing when you really don't. I think that you have to learn that you don't have to do things. Only do things that you really want to fucking do. Only really do the thing that you deeply desire the most. Like, you know that deep within you. I'm just like talking to that part of yourself that you're repressing. And you can live a life where you get your needs met and actually find that stimulation again. Because the other part of the Mars opposite Pluto for you will be about stimulation and, actually be, it's almost like I don't know why, but it's almost like Geminis have like turned off their fucking dial of crazy, wild, exciting Gemini so far down that you forgot you were a Gemini, you forgot you were exciting, and then you've accepted people, friendships, and things that are boring. And when I talk about sex and genitals, whether it's a guy, this is where there's Gemini guys out there dealing with ED because they're not into their partner, and there's women who can't get wet right now. I'll end with that. Oh, that one stung. But I think there's plenty of services out there now for any of you all out there. But that's the deeper question. Well, you got the Knight of Swords. Well, this card, when it comes in hot. It comes in hot. But it also means there's a lot happening and a lot to figure out. And it does feel like fire's happening, and the mental acuity you're going to have to turn back on to fix some sort of problem this week is happening. But it also means things are moving extremely fast. And even though I think you feel limited in your options, you have to be willing to see that you are not willing to even touch that Gemini extreme bomb that you used to be able to push that red button all the time, but you don't anymore. You got scared to do it. So really, what keeps us alive is actually doing the things that we desire and want. For some reason, you've convinced yourself and let others convince you that, no, this is good for you, when it's really demoralizing, boring, and dry. Cancers. All right, Cancer. Well, Cancer, this is the last time the moon will be in your sign, and then it will oppose Pluto, right? So the last time the moon in your life will oppose Pluto in your 7th house. Okay? Hold on, my car broke down, and it's been a crazy... Hello? Hey. Right. Cool. Yeah, and then if we could just get those other two things done, I mean, that'd be huge if that is fixed. Like, no, that would be awesome. All right. Hey, I appreciate you very much. Thank you for calling and let me know. All right. Bye-bye. All right, Cancer. It looks like when you broke down car, fucking shit. A nice car too, fucking an S580 Mercedes. So the last time that the moon in Cancer will oppose Pluto, with Mars being here, and that Mars-Pluto opposition in your first house, seventh house. You know, I show the battle on the thumbnail for this, and I've never said this, but I thought I would wait till the last moon in Cancer to oppose Pluto in Capricorn of your life. Pluto is Hades. Hades has the rulership of the underworld. Hades, when he wants to take somebody for a wife down to the bottom of hell, he steals her down there and he wants to keep her down there forever. He has to make a deal to make sure that she can at least still come back. But it's a very nasty and horrible story. So my fear is Cancer's afraid of being stuck in a relationship they don't want to be in. Because really, I think that it's boring being a Cancer without love. Kind of like why you're here. Two, then there's the other ones that are in the most darkest fucking realm of relationships ever and just haven't got the clue yet. Right? Like we've seen plenty of Cancers leave their fucking crazy exes in the news and all that stuff, right? But then you also see the single ones now like kind of in these weird relationship or not. They don't talk about them much because they're afraid of what comes out. But I think that for you, I think that, you know, the Scorpio energy of love, fifth house, with Pluto in the seventh. Your whole dynamic about love and relationships in the last 16 years of it, and we're talking specifically that area. Don't try and jump to the best friend or whatever. No. Your romantic, one-on-one personal relationship life has come to the place in your life for the last time that you have the emotion to oppose it and actually go, all right, remember the moon's in its home sign when it's with you. And it's in your first house. And it's got Mars there. The battle of your life is the battle you don't... I'm going to tell you a confident thing here. You don't think that you can win, but I'm telling you, you will win. Okay? Mars in the first is a great winner. But when it's in Cancer and we've got the moon here and it's opposing Pluto, it doesn't feel like it can. But again, I think that it's the story you're stuck to with Saturn being the dispositor from that Pluto. I think it's like you don't see your options well enough. It's like you don't want to look at the options that are else out there. So it's like you're sticking with let me just take the long-term path, even though every day it feels like you're kind of either sitting in hell alone longer or sitting and being forced to stay in a hell with somebody you don't want to be. It's one of those two. I know that it might feel like there's many other options. And I know that I read the comments once in a while and fucking you Cancers out there just can't handle this shit. But that's why Uranus is in the 11th. Like there is all these opportunities for you. It's in sextile to Mars. We got Neptune that's going to trine over to Mars. Like I think that for you, it's remembering that you're here to create a new story now. And that's part of what Pluto coming into the 8th house will be for you, is actually getting the story you've actually always wanted. I don't think that you have the same kind of need and want issue that Geminis have, but you do have Jupiter retrograde in your 12th house, right? So you have to remember that like you're having to learn from facts that you don't want to believe. Saturn, Neptune in the 9th house retrograde in Pisces. You don't want to believe what the spiritual truth is, right? Like especially about things that are convoluted or fuck up your game with who you identify yourself and your story with, right? So the problem is that you're too connected to the story, right? You're too connected with how it's got to feel and how, of course, the safety is going to be. But boy, oh boy, it's like you want to talk about starved. So I don't care if you're single or if you're in a relationship, Cancers are starved because all that you're getting and receiving back is going through the motions, right? Capricorn, like, okay, let me say the line. Or it's you're by yourself and you're just busy working. And that story is exciting to you. So I don't know. Are you humping your fucking business desk? Like, I don't know. But that's not really that inviting either. You know, last night I went and saw Under Oath, my favorite band. It was fucking the best fucking concert. I needed that shit so bad in my life. It was fucking amazing. And it was the 20-year anniversary of the album that most people who understand fucking metalcore and fucking emo and screamo and fucking badass fucking good fucking metal and rock and roll fucking know this album. But I think it applies to you. Because it literally is called they're only chasing their safety. I'm going to reverse it. In the guise of you chasing for safety, you're going into chaos. So in the name of you chasing your safety, and the album's just called they're only chasing safety. Yeah, they're only chasing their safety, right? So you're now chasing safety in the guise of safety when it really is hell. If you're on High Vibe, you would know that on Deep Astrology this week, I said that dark entities are going to take over a bunch of people, and literally that we will start hearing about an exorcism that'll be a main story, or at least like maybe a movie pop out of nowhere about exorcism to give us that signal in the beginning of November. I'm here to tell you that you're the sign dealing with that entity coming into an attachment of yours. And it already has, but this is the full lock and key. And it's about, are you going to be stuck lock and key? I think with Uranus at the end of Taurus here, that's part of the reminder. Is that like, it's the same as World War II. Could you imagine a Cancer being in World War II in Europe, and the Nazis come in and start taking over Poland with Russia or the USSR, and then, oh, you know what, now we're going to go into France. And let's say you're a French Cancer, male or woman, I don't care, and you already saw the Poland stuff, and you already knew that the French and the Germans had a bad World War I, a very bad one, and a very bad agreement that the Germans hated, and that you knew that there was talk and there was stuff about coming over. And you've been just sitting there going, there's no way, I'm safe, and even if they come, it won't be that bad. I'm here to tell you, like, this is like why Uranus is in your 11th. You have no lock on the gate right now. But it's almost like watching a movie and every fan of the movie is screaming at the Cancer like, don't go into the hell. You don't have to go. And it's like you're in a trance. Saturn, Neptune in your 9th is like a trance. Especially in Pisces. The trance that Disneyland still exists, even though you passed the sign, saw that it blew up in World War III, Iran blew it up, trying to kill Trump, and it's gone. But you're still entranced that it's there. Now, this Venus square Saturn in the 6th to the 9th house, it is like this really weird, like, check on your belief systems, but in the oddest way. It's kind of like, hey, let's actually take stock on what actually is really happening. And whether or not you believe it is or not. So I think that a big issue for you right now is actually waking you up out of your own trance, even though I think you're woken up into it. So it's almost like you're put under a spell that you're aware of, but nobody can hear or nobody can see, and you're trying to break out of it, but you don't know how to do anything about it. And I think that a lot of it is like, you need to first of all realize that you can get yourself out of this. Number one, it's by calling the people like for help. It's like, that's the reason why I got the call from the dealership, fucking right when I was on the call, right? It's like, okay, like I had to tell him, like, you're trying to tell me that this fucking car that's fucking brand new basically fucking has rusted brakes and it's fucking a brand new Mercedes S-Class, like, and you're telling me that's why the fucking car's fucking doing this? And no, it wasn't sitting, and no, it wasn't, right? I'm like, go, I even told him, like, go drive it yourself. I give you authorization, or go get the shop foreman and go, I push the brakes as hard as you can if it really is that. So it's like, you got to be able to kind of ask for help or get that help to kind of help you get around this. But boy, oh boy, that very difficult Chiron North Node transit for you is like, I'm going to tell you even more truth I haven't told you yet, Cancer, as I take you down the evolutionary astrology world. Is like, the way out of this whole transit for you is going to be that it's going to feel embarrassing. It's going to feel hurtful. It's going to feel like, why did I get put in this position and I'm not getting what I want, or I'm not going to make it where, and it's uncomfortable, and I'm going to have to shift my whole life kind of energy. That's the way through. So trying to find the alternate route is your problem. The one that's alternate of who you are. You're trying to find every route to not be who you actually are and what you want to be, even with that Mars in the first, but that Jupiter in the 12th, I think is adding to this, right? Like, again, the angels aren't going to intervene when Jupiter is retrograde in the 12th. And when there's dark entities coming in, and this is like where Hades tries to take somebody down to the underworld with them. Now, if you're single, that's just yourself and your fear of relationships being the, I want to be pulled away, I want to be in love with my job or my pets or whatever the fuck you're in love with, and never have anybody again and be in your own hell. But even for the single ones out there, you're still dealing with a dark entity. Whether it's an ex you still fuck, or whether it's some sort of thing, because this is dealing with sex in the more, well, one, if you're in a relationship, there's probably not a lot of positive, fun, exciting sex. It's just like once in a blue moon. And then on top of that, you know, Pluto's coming back into your 8th house. So it's like Cancers are deprived too, but it's like, you're like, you kind of like the deprivation in this moment. It's because it's turning sadistic in a weird way to make you stay in the story that kind of doesn't exist anymore. And I think you're afraid of humiliation. That's going to be a big part of it, when really it's more humiliating to continue it on. And nobody's going to humiliate you. Everybody's going to be on your team. But, you know, this is the last time the moon can actually, and thank God Mars is there to actually connect and go, what do I really want? And actually that's happening right now as I'm doing this horoscope. So that's the irony of this all. Is I'm giving you this message as the last moment for you to actually look at yourself, even if you see this days after or even a month after. Listen, this is your moment to actually go, what do I need in my life? And what does it actually look like after 16 years of like, where could somebody show up that actually is fully what I want? And what were and it's about learning about the red flags that you knew at the beginning. And like, don't be so like surprised that they happened, right? Pluto is trying to teach you how to have authority over not your relationships, but authority over making sure that somebody's accountable with not trying to control you or not trying to make you and turn you into whatever they want, right? Because that's the other part of Scorpio 5th house is like, people, when it comes to love, try to always associate Cancer as like, well, you'll be the perfect wife or husband, or you'll be the perfect person for me to do that with, or whatever. Where's your own story here? And you're dealing also with somebody who doesn't like your story. It could be like the, you know, the bad step parent or whatever, right? We'll throw it to whoever it is, but there's somebody who doesn't want you to be you at the same time that you're dealing with. But most likely it's these deeper, intimate connections that you are failing to take the truth in. And it will affect your health because you have one of the more gnarlier horoscopes. I'll show you. This Mars in sesquiquadrant to Saturn. This Mars in sesquiquadrant to Venus. This Sun in sesquiquadrant to Jupiter. Okay, these are really hard aspects. And even thinking about your safety too much, this Mercury in semi-square over to that South Node, and with that South Node, Lilith, and actually Apollo's there too. I think that you're beating your head trying to find safety and keep it all together, and that's your problem. The more that you're trying to keep things together, you're in a place to where you're kind of like signing your jail certificate to a life that's going to be very hard. And if you want Pluto and Aquarius in the 8th house to be like the craziest breakout of your life, be my guest. Live your fantasy of being Belle with a beast and think that the beast will turn into some beautiful thing. It won't. Pretty much Beauty and the Beast would be a Cancer going through a Pluto and Capricorn transit. The whole story. But at the end of it, there is no spell to where now the beast turns into a hot, hunky man. You got the Ace of Pentacles in reverse. I think that you are too afraid to start the story that actually is in the values that you want. So this is a self-worth test. And I do think that with Venus square Saturn, your 6, it's like you do feel more limited, or you feel like you won't be able to do the life, or maybe you're reliant on somebody because you think they're the way that something is made happen in your life. But like the truth is that you haven't even tested the powers of yourself or the abilities of yourself. You used to, but for another day. All right, Leo. All right, Leos. Oh, it's Scorpio season, so all the Leos are in the dungeon. In the 4th house here. I think that this is a time for Leo to go, okay, you have emotions too. And so where are the boundary in your emotions? Like with receiving, that's a big one with Saturn, Neptune in the 8th, right? Like not a lot's coming towards your way. And, you know, you feel alive and you feel together when things are reciprocal spiritually and receiving emotion. But the real big curveball is that Pluto and Mars opposition in your 12th to your 6th. So, you know, again, you're letting go of things that really, it's like you're becoming a whole new person. You're letting go of the past and who you used to be, while at the same time you're confronting, like you've just spent 16 years fine-tuning your life, and now you got to let a lot of it go. Right? But I think what you're letting go here with this Mars in Cancer, and since it's dispositing over to Aries, which is your 9th house, is it's all the negative beliefs and the things that within you. I think that Leos are in this weird space where you're living in your own like life and you're emotionally trying to just process like, what can you trust with all that 8th house? Like where are you being seen and not being seen? Where are you able to be yourself and where you can't be yourself? You know, I think that this is a moment where Leos are really like not advertising what's going on because Leos are trying to avoid drama, believe it or not. Leos have learned in this period, and Leos are in this weird moment right now of like, kind of like on the fence for some, but I don't care what Leo you are out there, you're having belief and faith questions. Like so many things are happening to where it's like, why is there, and you can't lose that faith. That's the big part of this. Also, Jupiter is helping in the 11th house with you by looking at like, where in the world do you fit? Like where is your truth? Where are people that, you know, can be honest with you? And communication's key for Leo, right? With friends and with people, communication, right? It's so funny because most people assume with Leos, if we talk to somebody, we're in love with them. It's the opposite. Leo's Sag is the 5th house, right? And that's where Venus is, right? We like people who, they don't talk much, but we can perceive this whole adventure with them, right? Where we have to get to know them, right? It's not the talk, right? Like the talk's cheap. The talk's for the people on the court, right? So the weird part is Venus square Saturn here. You know, when it comes to your love life, this could also be part of the Mars transit in opposition to Pluto here, is like the way you live life is how Leos love. Leo puts everything out there, maybe too much. And this also means creatively and all that, right? And like, how much gas do you really have left? You know, I can tell you, and I'll be vulnerable with Saturn and Neptune in the 8th, like, fuck, it has knocked out my whole financial empire to where I live day to day. I live week to week. Coming from a millionaire to not one is a very humbling experience. I know I'll survive. I know I'll be fine. But it's one of those things to where, you know, it's like, okay, writing is on the wall when it comes to like, okay, where am I not receiving? But I think a lot of this has really been like the universe has not been coming through with the candy it does, right? Like all the candy that Leo always gets, Leo has not gotten much candy. So this is also teaching you this week, like how to love your life without, and I think Leos are at the point with this. So I think that unless you're one that needs to always have the candy in life, like, oh, the hot thing of life or the most coolest next thing, it doesn't need to be that. This is a moment for you to go, you know what? I'm letting go of things that just really don't spiritually connect. While at the same time, that hard Pluto is like, you've put all this work in. So the big question is, what you let go of, is it getting rid of 16 years of hard work? So I think that there's boundaries because with Saturn, Neptune in the 8th, Uranus in your 10th and sextile to Mars, I think it's good because there is this kind of cool quality. Like, I think that you have a good vision on what's possible and what you can do, but your beliefs have some issues on yourself because you've had a lot of hard times lately of just like, not much is received. You give, but you don't get much back. And so it's like, you're in your dungeon right now, and I would not recommend staying in the dungeon, but I recommend it's okay for you to have these deeper private emotions. And they're nothing crazy. You know, Leo's like private emotions are like, I don't know, I just don't feel the greatest today, right? Like Leos don't hold on to things. But, you know, I think the one thing that breaks Leo's hearts the most, because this is kind of a broken heart energy of just overall life. Like it breaks my heart in the world when I look at it today, where it's like people don't want to go have fun. Like I called people to come to that show with me last night. I went by myself. When I went in there, it sold out, thousands of people. Nobody wants to go on the floor because they're afraid of, oh my God, if there's a mosh pit or whatever. I'm fucking 40 years old. I'm in there fucking on the floor. I'm in the fucking, I want to fucking get down to fucking that band. And I was just like, God, there's people just don't want to like live their lives. Like, and so that is heartbreaking to me. And it makes me realize that everybody's like, well, I got this to do and I got this to do. And it's like, I don't really take any breaks to go do anything for myself, especially when you become a new dad and all that shit. And it's like, you know, my wife was like, you should go. Like, go do something good for yourself. I'm like, thanks, babe. And I go to this thing with myself and people just, I saw it in the crowd. And I think Leos are in this weird moment where we're seeing a lot of the world is not happy. And we have to still stay the leaders of showing happiness. But in order to do that, we got to let go of all of our insignificant things. And you know what? Anything that doesn't want to align with us, anything that doesn't want to unify with us, anything that doesn't want to give as much as we give back energetically, just whatever, let it go. Like if they don't want to put their energy in, or if the universe doesn't want to do all that, it's like, there's nothing to be concerned of. I think that Leos are going through the biggest faith test of their life. How do you deal with all these intricate things you've built and structures that you've built that are very specific, Pluto and Capricorn, while at the same time, Saturn, Neptune are in fucking the 8th house, stopping any real significant gains. And Mars here in the 12th is making you almost feel like to give up. And I'm telling you not to give up, Leo. I'm also telling you that it's okay to be, in a moment where the pride lands have been taken over by hyenas in life. And so it's kind of a Simba moment that's building up over the next year. But, this is kind of a moment where you're regaining your understanding of yourself spiritually without, it's not, this is the moment where Leos are the farthest from their ego, believe it or not. And I think that you have to still be a way shower, and a lot of that is showing people to have strong beliefs that are wide and inclusive and not about narrow stuff. But being a leader is one that believes in their self first. Is it to believe in yourself again? I think that you're dealing with a lot of bittersweet situations. Like, it's okay that people don't like you maybe, or it's okay if people think you're too much, or it's okay if people don't want to reciprocate the emotions back of life or feel the same stuff as you do. It's okay. Everybody's unique. But remember, the universe is totally cock-blocked all Leos from receiving a lot. We're getting grains of sand when we're used to getting the whole world. So it's like, remembering that this is a moment to love yourself again. This is a moment for you it's okay to kind of deal with your emotions. And, anybody who is upset about that, or anybody who doesn't get that you're just kind of just maybe not your typical Leo self during these times, with Mars in the 12th, Sun in Scorpio, dispositing Pluto that's in the 6th house, that it's like, it feels like every day is exactly the same, or you're dealing with a lot of things that are exactly the same. But really what you're doing is you're being more focused on how to be your soul the best that it could be, not letting, even when the universe doesn't show up with much, or energy doesn't come back in the same reciprocal energy, and letting, your career with Uranus there, just, hey, fuck it, see what happens. That's the best thing, right? Is a king or a queen that learns to take off so much energy into how it's, how much there is, how much it's got to do, how much work you got to do. It's like a moment where, yeah, you know how to do that, but you know how to let go at the same time too, and actually just, hey, if nobody wants to enjoy the same things, or nobody's going to have the same emotions with you, and the royal court's also in a questionable place right now of who are the people in your life, in the friendship realm, in the acquaintance realm, in the associates realm. Like, I think that for you, Leo, you just have to have compassion for people right now. This is going to be hard, because that's kind of what the Pluto Aquarius is about, right? Is a lot of people are not going to want to connect, right? With the same fire and passions. So this Venus square Saturn is kind of like Leo not feeling very Leo-ish, because, we're used to, where's the people who want to be passionate about things? Where's the energy that wants to share intensity together? And it's not around much. So there's nothing wrong with you. This is you kind of experiencing life without the edge again. I've said that a couple times recently, but it really is. And it's about like, can you still be happy? Can you like live without these things? That's what Mars in Cancer is you being comfortable in, hey, when spirit brings it, when it does, when it doesn't. And I think that for you, it's about not engaging over the details too much, but at the same time, there are details that need to be done. So, this is kind of weird because it does feel very robotic. Dare I say that you feel like God's slave right now? And I wish I could say something better to that, except, hey, there's a reason for it. There's a better purpose for it. And it's if I were to give any Leo a good big prediction for 2025 and 2026 is a majority of all the people you know and people you don't know are going to come to you and go, I'm sorry I never was really truly there for you, like when, or to ask what you were doing or ask how you were or try to be empathetic and understand your side of things. And that's going to kind of blow your mind because we're always the ones there for everyone. You know, like Aries are there in like a quick second, like, hey, I could show up, I could make this happen, and then I got to go. Same thing with Aquarians, right? But Leo's like, we'll clean your dog poo, we'll lay on the floor with you, we'll then fucking fix your roof if you want to, and then we'll pour everything we got at you, not for any gain either, not getting much love about it either, and then not going to thank you for like 10 years, you know, and not let that be bitter to us, right? So I think that this is that accumulation of the last 16 years of where, God, you've been God's helper. You've been God's worker. And, you know, this is where you can't let it fuck up your belief systems and fuck up your life. And remember, it's been about this service and selfless service. So this is where, if I were to go much deeper for those Leos, because Leos can go deep, 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 deep. How you do selfless service and service to the world is finding a way to reignite in a long, slow process. So don't expect big changes quick. And I would also teach Leos in this moment to, you know, don't expect things to change when you want them to. It's more like okay, just focus on each day. Be the best person that you could be. And eventually things will turn. You're going to be a better person because of all this. I think this has been the years of Leos really coming into like the Leo that people are going to admire over the next 20 years because it's not going to be Aquarians. We're kind of like replacing the Aquarius idea. Like, oh, Aquariuses are cool. They're chill. They're fun. They're so unique and eccentric and da-da-da. Guess what? Not going to be Aquarians. They're going to be so about themselves and so obsessed with figuring out who they are and what all that crazy shit is and crazy dramatic relationship situations. A lot of people think Leos will go through crazy dramatic situations. It's more like this is teaching you that no, many relationships with Pluto and Aquarius, if you're a Leo in the 7th house, is more like, okay, you want the most eccentric, unique people in life. And you also, at the same time, deal with people who are cold. Right? That makes sense that you're so hot. So it's not dramatic, right? But it could turn to where like Leos are more chill and then relationships become more hot. And that could be a flip, but you know, it's going to be an interesting journey. But I think that, you know, Leos are going through the most spiritual moment of how they're coming into this matrix and back up spiritually and how exhausting that could be for 16 years. And doing it every day, like most Leos are doing. And, you know, how do you take care of yourself? Well, you have passions and needs and especially wants too. Which ones are accessible and which ones aren't? You're going to just have to be honest with yourself. You're not going to be able to get everything. You're not going to be able to get all the normal things that you normally get right now in life, whether it's from financial or emotionally or spiritually. It's just not going to happen. So you got to find that within yourself. And that's kind of always the lesson for Leos in any part of the evolution. 9 of Swords reversed. There's nothing to worry about here. I think that for you, like the more that you worry, the more it just doesn't do anything and it doesn't end up being that way. So take everything, even what seems like the most dramatic situation, there'll be a way to figure it out. I think that what you've learned is how to figure things out better. Like you're the person who can do it all. So I think that, especially after 16 years. So, you know, there's nothing to worry about. There's nothing coming at you It's just more how you handle those situations, whether you want to take them on and make it about it now. I think that you're learning to disengage, step back and kind of go, do I put a lot of my energy into this? And that's what this restriction in the 8th house is Leos are boundless usually. And so this is putting boundaries up of like, do I take this on? Do I not? Do I put a lot of energy into this? You know, and you'll start to see things change. Put the same amount of energy of what you get back. You don't need to put that extra. That's, I know what makes you special, Leo, but how's that working out? All right. Kind of a sad story for Leos, to be honest with you. It's not like the dramatic life shit. It's the spiritual journey stuff. All right, here, Virgo. Believe it or not, Virgo, I'm excited for Virgos. And I know Virgos sometimes come to my horoscopes like, fuck, Leo King. I'm excited. Remember, I've been talking about this Pluto for you in the 5th, leaving the 5th. I think it's the best Pluto transit in astrology. Okay? The bad news is, well, there's good news with it, but the bad news is, of course, every Pluto exiting a sign for you will never be as easy as this one. But what does that mean? Well, again, the sun in Scorpio in your 3rd house, activating that Pluto. We've seen the square to it. And then we have Mars in Cancer at your 11th house in that opposition. The last moon in Cancer to oppose Pluto, happening right now as I'm speaking. I think what this is doing is like you going, you know what? You know what you really want in your life. You know what will really be stimulating and exciting to you. I think that you can communicate your heart better than you ever have before. I think that you truly have a very clear vision more than anybody else. I think that that unclear vision, though, is in one area. You've got one area, and that's relationships with Neptune and Saturn here in the 7th, right? Where it's more like you need to confront with clarity, just to have conversations about what's unclear instead of making assumptions. But you could also be dealing with somebody who's not really well-versed spiritually right now on how to actually show up, right? And like there's probably questions about what they're doing spiritually. So it's about having conversations from the heart. And I think that for you, this is actually like where you feel more confident than you ever felt about doing that. Although I've always noticed at the end of every Pluto transit, especially in the 5th, it always does come with either a big breakup or like the hardest, biggest talk of all time about where your heart really sits. And usually people will accept it. It's going to be whether or not you want to accept or you want to reject things. So you're kind of in a accepting or rejecting moment of your life. Am I going to keep accepting this weird stuff in my relationship life? Or am I going to not demand, but be very clear on what I need and want? And I think the other part of this is there is this other element of like this world that you know is out there, but it's kind of like this like realization that the world that you always thought it was going to be emotionally and that you really wanted it to be, isn't it? And that's the complication that's bringing up this weird opposition to Pluto in your 5th, kind of being like, fuck. Especially since Pluto does disposit that 3rd house, right? It's like your mind is not getting what that Mars, which was your 8th, actually wanted to receive. And the only way that you can get closer to that is to actually have those conversations, maybe even rethink the whole. So I think you're in a rethinking phase at the same time too about where happiness lies and what you really want to do with your long-term goals and happiness with that Jupiter retrograde in your 10th. Of course, I'm not a big like, ooh, Jupiter's just going to give you all these great things like every astrologer says. It's more like the hardest lessons of your life are with Jupiter, right? You're in school, right? Fucking in the retrograde is like, okay, pop quiz, and it's a long one, you know, it's your midterms. I think you're letting go of compromise. And, you know, we need to have some compromise in our life. Your issue is I think you've compromised too much. You've given too much to the other side. So it is renegotiation, but it's getting, again, this 8th house North Node Chiron, and even the fact that Mars is dispositing that 8th house and it's in opposition to Pluto, this is dispositing your 3rd, is you're going to have to renegotiate what you need and want and what you're not getting back. Right? It's not, the thing about Chiron and Aries here is like how you show up, whether you show up to it or not. Like there's an issue with passion or connection or trust or something, or not getting the life that you want. And it's not like Leos that have all that Pisces in the 8th. It's more like, for you, it's Aries. It's like, you got to show up. So I think that for you, this is like this call to action. It's like, got to show up. You got to say where your boundaries are at, where you're not, where's there things missing that you're not getting from the other side, or what in life too you're missing. There's not all Virgos, but there's some that I've kind of entered into these kind of kiddish relationships that really aren't going anywhere and are kind of taking you off course. And I think that you'll figure that one out quick, and it will be painless. I think the other thing that I would like to tell all Virgo ascendants is like, what your deepest fears of certain relationship situations, if they do not work out, are going to be painless. That's one thing I've noticed about Pluto in the 5th, especially at the end, is it is painless, right? Because there is this gleaming bit of hope now and this kind of relief that your heart doesn't have to bear that unhappiness. Like there's a part of you that's unhappy that you have to speak for, that you have to negotiate for, that you have to get to the center of, because that's where we really see the power, is this North Node in the 8th Chiron here. And I'm picking this one for you because it is like where I feel you can make the biggest shift right now, especially even with the Sun Scorpio, by communicating. And you're an amazing communicator, and you have Mercury here too, and that's your ruling planet, and it's in the 3rd house, right? Like I think that this is where, Virgos can really, you love specifics. You need to look at it like, hey, this is chess now. It's not checkers. Let me get really specific on what I need and want. And in that you haven't said all that needs to be said. You haven't really, like, don't be afraid to kind of not just knock on the door, but ring the fucking doorbell, right? If there's a fucking little latch to like old school doors, like little fucking round, like go pop, pop, like fucking hit that fucking door. Hello, I'm here. Time to fucking deal with this shit, right? Like this is your time about you and working with others that really are willing to do that work. So I actually feel for a lot of Virgo ascendants, because you're dealing with people who don't really want to show up fully. Like it almost looks like they do, but they really don't. I would actually ask some interesting questions, kind of like, what do you like? And like, what do they really want? So if you're going to make it about what you need, what do they want? But you're going to need to get to like what they really want. Because I think that you're dealing with some energy where it's like, you're dealing with people who don't really know how to describe it, and you need to get it out of them, right? You don't need to interrogate them. But this is a confident place. I think that for the whole zodiac, I really feel that even though Jupiter's squaring your sun, even though the moon's in your sign or your rising, doesn't matter, or you've got this Venus square Saturn, and again, that Venus square Saturn is about where your emotional needs are in your relationships, right? So everything keeps coming back to like where you're the one in the power play position. And the biggest loss for you this week would be to do nothing. Just say everything's fine the way it is. Right? Like you have to address the elephant in the room this week. And it's a big elephant. And I think that Mars-Pluto opposition is again, I think it's pretty cool. But you need to make sure that you're really happy, because life's about to be about trying to figure out which wire is working and not in reality when it comes into your 6th house. And that Mars coming into a long-term retrograde in the 12th. And then in the next Mars retrograde in 2026, it goes from Virgo back into Leo in your 12th. So you're going to have a double Mars retrograde in the 12th. So I think it's like you have a lot about realizing that, you need to get your life as set up as best now, because it's going to be harder to shift those things later on. And that's the whole end of the Pluto in the fifth anyway. It really is about like setting yourself up for the rest of your life, about the powerful transformation of the exciting happiness that you've always wanted. But maybe, you know, the rules have been too harsh, and maybe in some of that conversation, maybe you've put too many rules on things, or you've maybe not shown your heart enough, or it's the opposite way around. Those are the conversation has to be had. The being direct has to be done. And you used to be very direct. Now you have to be direct again, but like never before. I think it's with a sense of confidence in yourself. And it's not about leaning on that confidence or leaning on this, like, I have to, or else. It's just, hey, I want to be happy. If you want to be part of that happiness, this is what I'm asking. And if they call you a nagging Virgo, tell them to watch this video and tell them that, sorry, you're the one not showing up. You're not the one that really has the it quality for the Virgo ascendant. Because you are lazy. You are playing the I'm really okay when you're like either drunk or on drugs or not spiritual. Or you're the pretend spiritual person. I'm spiritual, but really not. Like Neptune in the 7th house in Pisces can definitely be. So, best horoscope goes to Virgos. And Uranus in the 9th is saying, like, try everything you got now. Like, you've got a lot of stuff that you haven't tried yet. A lot of values that you haven't really kind of thrown possibilities to. And so really anything is possible for you right now. It's really about just addressing things and making sure that there's opportunities that are possible with unions and with different, you know, collabs or even like things that you've committed to, making sure that they get first dibs with you. But if they don't want to do that, then there's unlimited possibilities. And there's also lots of different ways that this could all happen for you, with areas where you're feeling a lack or that something's missing or it's just dull. I don't think it's boring. It's just more kind of like, or there's something that feels a little odd that you need to get to the bottom of here that's been happening for a long time. Yeah, you did get the High Priestess reversed. Yeah. I mean, I think the good part about this card is it is saying, stop relying on intuition so much here. I think that this is like beyond, I think the intuition's already come. I think it's more about like, stop waiting on the right moment or when it feels right. Like, no. You know, the one thing about the High Priestess is she can also be mischievous and misguide people, right? So I think that, you know, a part of this is like, rely on common sense and your happiness, and where is that being met and where is it not? And you'll be fine. Stop relying on, well, push it off another day, or let me wait for the right magical moment, or, you know, let me wait till the clock strikes 222 and I need more of my, you don't need any more signs. All right. Libra ascendant. All right, Libra. Well, I mean, you know, watching Kamala Harris has been a very interesting Libra subject to watch, as she's been just losing it. Literally. Did you see the one with her sniffing and getting all weird? Fucking wonder where that cocaine came from in the White House. And actually, that was actually a lot of the reporting. Is that's why the Bidens hate fucking her. Sorry that you Libras have to have her as an example. But I'm going to use her because for that moment of like, what was your whole last month about in Libra? Guaranteed focus on yourself. And that is not what to be doing. Right? A good example is like North Node's in Aries in your 7th house. And I'll get to this Pluto-Mars thing in a second. But think about this. This is the time in your life that only comes around for once every 19 years, for 18 months. We're almost over with this shit. So you've basically had about 14 months here to like realize this is your time to double down on your unions, your connections, your relationships. And with Chiron there, it's not going to be easy, right? You might think, well, they're not perfect or they don't. It's like, it's about working through these things. But so over-focused on yourself is always where you fall when the South Node's in your side. And every Libra I know in my life, it was during this transit in 2005 that has defined who they are since the wrong way. Every single one. So now it's time for you to realize, hey, the sun's in Scorpio. It's in your second house. So it's like, it's bringing up all your wants. And that's I love Vedic astrology because I love how it teaches these actual Rahu Ketu aspects. It especially even in the Mahadasha system and how they work and all the sub periods, because it's like, the problem here is like, you're at a place in your life to where it's like, it's the illusion that it's about you. And then when the sun now comes in the second house, it's about your needs again, right? My needs. I think this is more about like you taking an overall look on who and what things are of value in your life. And also it's learning about this deep commitment to the appreciation, right? The problem with Kamala Harris, for example, as a Libra, is that bitch does not appreciate many people, right? She's not thanking many people. She's pretending. She didn't even show up to the fucking dinner, right? She's like, nah, whatever. And then also mock them and then fucking, right? Like, that's why people just don't associate with her. Right? Like, you know, only people who are trying to be viral on the internet to kind of look into the crazy club that's all shot up to fucking their nines with vaccines are fucking literally going for her, right? Or you need to buy a pair of black glasses and look a certain way. And it's almost like she's created like her own cult. Like the only people that follow me need to be like Brat. And if you're a guy, you need to look like a fucking white dude for Harris. You need to put on black glasses and look like Mark Cuban and look like everybody on MSNBC. If you don't look like that, then you're not in my club. And then I'll fucking have the military kill you with the new things that me and Biden just did on September 27th. For the first time that the Pentagon can go use the Department of Defense and the military to kill American fucking people. I'm kind of giving the actual true shit through you, Libra, right now, but I don't think that you mind. Because I think it's a good, you're getting the best mirror reflection of how you are right now through her. That, you know, this Mars in opposition to your Pluto, this Pluto's in the fourth house. So when you look at Kamala Harris and her whole, I come from a middle-class family, that doesn't say shit. We all come from fucking different classes of family. I think 99% of us come from a middle-class family. And fucking, but there's a lot more to it than that, right? And for you, dealing with your personal, emotional, right? It's Capricorn. It's like, you use it as like, hey, I present it how I want it to be presented. Capricorn's presentation, right? And the problem too is also repressed energy with Pluto. So it's like this repressed energy of how your feelings are. And then Mars in the 10th, this goal that you emotionally want to feel will make you feel that you've reached the pinnacle of where you want to be. Yet the problem with that is, where do relationships fit in? So I use her for an example because, you know, she's already pretty much kicked her VP running mate out of the race. Like, he doesn't even fucking get to talk much anymore. Doesn't show up with them. And then she doesn't even want to have Biden around to do anything, right? So she's just going to go try and do this all over herself, or anybody who looks like they got the black glasses look on. Which means people that she feels safe with. And with Uranus in the 8th and sextile to that, I think a lot of this is like, this isn't about success, right? I think for you, you feel comfortable when you feel in control. And that's the problem. Pluto in the 4th, emotional control, Mars in Cancer, right? I want control emotionally, right? So it's like, that's what every judge wants in a courtroom. And I think when the South Node's in your sign and it's playing with Lilith, we have Apollo conjunct Lilith, which I think is the most toxic relationship that could ever happen. Imagine Apollo and Lilith together. That's what's happening right now with your ego, right? And I've been talking about your ego for 14 months. But now with the sun now here in Scorpio dispositing Pluto, This is where it's about appreciating what you've been through emotionally, what you have, and knowing how to realize that life is going to be much better when you actually can just sit and be comfortable in your own skin and comfortable with life not being just about you. Right? Because when Rahu's in the 7th, it's like, I don't like anybody. Right? I don't like anybody. I only like this. Right? There's the favorite person thing. And it's somebody who you don't have to put a lot of emotional things if it's Pluto and Capricorn in the 4th. Kind of reminds me like the trend, like every chick has a gay guy as their best friend. I bet you most Libras do that are women. And most Libra guys probably have like the buddy they talk to at the fucking bar, but you don't get much more than that. Right? So it's like you're at this really weird point, and that it's not about just you. It's about, dare I say, for a Libra, togetherness. I think that where that has been a problem is going to be unveiled by Venus and that square to Saturn is you can't do this life and nobody can do it alone. I think that you're falling kind of into this, I believe I can do anything, right? So that's Libra's thing. I believe I can do anything, right? Like, it's like you can take a fact and take a belief and go all the way. And that's actually a great quality, but that Saturn in the 6th is saying, well, actually, this is what you can do and what you can't do. So I think what the people see with Kamala is, and this is why I said my prediction, like, this chick's not even going to come close unless she's just put in by Biden stepping down or dying. That's what I think a lot of astrologers are seeing, is because she's not able to meet in reality where she is. Because whether it's a mental health issue, because the Pluto deals with very intense repressed stuff. And when you deal with the 4th house, the houses that deal with mental health, 4th, 12th, of course, 8th house trauma stuff, right? And so you have that 4th house, like trauma, emotional, deep stuff that you're holding on to and trying to keep it like under control. But with that Mars in opposition, it's like there's anger about, I want to achieve this, I want to reach this, but like reality is kind of not, you're not like at the place you want to be right now, and that's frustrating. And so it makes you kind of double down on you and what you got to do and using any resource possible. But it's more about understanding, hey, be comfortable, learn to find comfort within yourself, learn to appreciate the things that you have. Because if you can't, I'm going to use a stupid example, but whenever you're dealing with 4th house and 10th house, you know, William Lilly always used the basement and the roof, okay? If the basement's flooded, then the roof's not going to stay strong. But I'm going to say it as a different one. For the house, I always use the tree analogy, is the roots of the tree and the top of the tree is the 10th house. So the issue with you is you really want to just climb the tree without watering the tree. And you don't want to claim a tree with anybody much, right? The other thing is, do you see her using her husband on the trail a lot? Or, God, all the shit we just found out about him slapping his ex and cheating on her with the maid and getting her pregnant and shit. She just uses him. So for you, this is like, the universe is like always a test whenever the nodes are in our own sign, especially with the South node. I teach in my schools, and I've used stupid amount of case studies. South nodes on somebody's sun or in their 1st house of their ascendant. They always ruin their life based off picking their own life first. And they always destroy a beautiful relationship. Right? So like she's already ruined her relationship with Biden. She's already going to ruin her relationship with Obama because he's pissed. We already saw the footage of them talking at the funeral last week, and they were both like, yeah, it's fucking bad and all that shit. Right? Like, he's never going to do anything for that. Right? So how many relationships are you willing to lose because it's about your own things or your own needs? And that could be because Pluto and Capricorn over the last 16 years, you felt deprived of being able to take care of yourself, or always having to either jump to different homes, or always felt like other people were trying to emotionally control you, or always felt like, like you didn't want to have to do all that emotional work. And so really it's about, are you ready to do the emotional work? Because that's what Mars in Cancer says, the 10th, is once you keep doing emotional work and you have emotional regulation, and that's what the 10th house is, right? You're not going to put too much emotion into it, but the emotion is going to be about being serious and staying on the target and not fucking losing it, especially losing your cool at work or losing your cool about whatever it is in your personal life, right? Like, that's the only way that you're actually able to make it, right? So, like, when the bitch is coming out and saying that fucking Trump's fucking Hitler and idolizes Hitler, when she's the one that's got the whole Pentagon now that can kill Americans for the first time ever, kind of like how it was in Nazi Germany, and she does kind of support more about getting rid of Jews when Trump's all for the Jews. And it's really like that murky water that you're playing with right now, and people can see through it. I think a lot of this too is like this Mars Pluto opposition is like, you can have both the success and the nurturing, and it's about understanding how to balance that out. But that's through how you work in tandem with relationships and how you're defined by relationships. You're Libra ascendant. When you're by yourself, it's like empty zone. And so the problem is that empty zone looks really good, but that's where Libras are. People think Libras are the one sign that like are the most about relationships, yet they're the hardest to get. They're also the ones that play I don't really want to do the relationship thing the most, right? They're the ones that like to break up. They're the ones that want to get out. It's because Aries is their 7th house. So they want to look at themselves in the relationship too. But really it's more about that they find themselves in the relationship. So it's like, it's about accepting who you are. But it's like this kind of feeling with Chiron there, I think, for you. And the problem with the emotional thing is I think you've probably been let down by people. And so there's this feeling of, I don't want to feel dependent. And there's not about anything about like you're going to be dependent on people. But it's like, this is this where Libra's glorious when they're working on that team element or all that. That's why you're not seeing coalitions with her. And I think for you, Libra, it's like this moment of like, what do you already have? And what are you willing to continue to keep putting into with Pluto? Because it's about to come in the 5th for 20 years. Is it really about the tree, or is it about making the tree the coolest and most badass tree ever, to where it's like, okay, you can be successful at something, but what about all these other cool things that are out there to do that you haven't even really looked into yet? So life isn't about success. It's about success based off all these other factors that come after. Love, happiness. I mean, when it comes to your day-to-day reality and how to handle tasks and how to handle it, you're overwhelmed, right? That's how I know. Like, I'm like, look at how Newsom, he's a Libra, right? That's like, that motherfucker, you can tell he's off the job half the time. It's too much for him to handle. Same thing with Kamala, right? Any Libra right now, it's like tasks are too hard. Neptune, Saturn in the 6th. So that's why you have relationships. But you also have to like realize that this is this deep subconscious fear about never being successful, or always trying to have it be and look a certain way. And also it's like, are you willing to gamble your personal life for success? Where are you going to fall if you fall down from the tree? In a bunch of roots that haven't been watered, so there's no energy around it. And also maybe the tree cracks in half and then you fall off the tree, right? Like, there's got to be support. And I think the deepest thing is about you learning how to not support yourself based off, this is what I do, I'm in control of my life. It's more like, no, I have to be able to accept and receive emotions and give them back. It's like a two-way street, right? Because Uranus here in Taurus in the 8th for you, Jupiter retrograde in the 9th. Like, this is you having to rethink all about your visions because they're all the facts aren't making sense. And you can't get frustrated off that because Libras get frustrated more than any other sign, right? Having Aries on the 7th house when something gets destabilized, anger, or when you actually think about balance, right? Like it's like, oh, I can't, it's not just about me. Oh my God, right? Or 3rd house, like being in Sag, like, oh my gosh, I have so many ideas with this. Well, you can't make all of them happen. So there's frustration that lives inside of you that is very centered at the core of your emotional ways, what's happened to you over the last 16 years. So I'd look back to 2008, like what was the shift there for you emotionally? What was the trigger? What was the hard thing? And remembering that Mars is going to come back in retrograde to your 10th, and it's going to actually retrograde in your 11th. So it's really not about success. It's about once you even understand where you are in the world, once you even understand how to be likable, and a lot of that is due to like how much you like yourself. And so maybe there's a fear of showing that to relationships, of vulnerability that is a big fear. But you continuing to focus on the hole that is of emptiness and void and only seeing yourself in there as the way through this reality right now because you're overwhelmed with day-to-day life with Saturn and Neptune in your 6th house. If anything, that's just going to destroy more. Right? And you're never going to have the friends that used to always be with Pluto coming in Aquarius. Like that whole era of Libras and lots of friends and my friends are my best friends and they're my lovers and they're everything. That's over. Never going to be like that again. So you have to like remember that we're all having to let go of the old things, like, And I think for you, it's like not bad, but it's like, I think it's just about you. Hey, you're a Libra, be one. Instead of trying to be a fucking Aries. I think that Venus square Saturn is you stressed. And it doesn't have to be. Like, what are the things that you have in your life that you can transform right now that there's a positive aspect of relationships in your life, letting go about it, always being about yourself. And also finding that it's not about just you're defining in a relationship. It's like both parts. And finding that happy balance. But, that's where, I don't want Libras to keep coming back for the next 19 years. I mean, like, where's my relationship? And I'm like, it was 2005. Now I'll be like, it was 2024. And you'll be like, well, I fucking tried to do my own thing. Well, try to go for the highest office in the land. You should have been sitting at home with your husband and planning for the next fucking round. All right. Judgment reversed. That's so cliche. Stop judging. Stop putting that judgment outside anything. The only place that inner judgment should be happening is within yourself. But the other part of this card, which to be honest with you is the most relatable, is you're not showing up for God. Destiny's calling, and we all are dead bodies that are all energetically to our divine creator, here to serve in the most beautiful way and show up at the beck and call of God. For some reason, you're not connecting with God, praying to God, asking God for assistance, seeing God in all of your love and happiness and relationships, and even in your own desires and wants, needs, belief systems. Like, you're only seeing yourself. That's what this card says. It goes well with this astrology. And so you have the second easiest one. Stop thinking about only you. Start to deal with your emotional shit. And start funneling that into learning how to take care of yourself in a positive way and be caretaking to others and to love others. And success is guaranteed for you, but it is not guaranteed alone. Or picking people because you think they're brat. and will keep at a distance, because that's the other part. Uranus in the 8th, you really want all these badass things to come to you in physical form, and yet you want to be all detached energetically, not connected. Why do you think Aquarius is your 5th? It's because like you have to learn to get out of the cold, bitter heart and have to actually connect on all levels. You have to plug all the plugs in. And so all Libra's secret is they're terrified of having plugs put into them. They think everybody's out to like hold them captive. The truth is, in most Libra breakups, all of us are so happy that you finally always broke up, because we were dealing with so many issues already that were unfair, right? So that's the thing, is nobody misses a Libra. Nobody, when Kamala loses and she's not president and all that, nobody's going to miss that. Nobody's going to miss it. Nobody's going to be holding on to some Harris fucking poster or whatever. Maybe that's the medicine you need for this moment, is that you're not memorable in the best ways. That's why Virgo is your 12th. Because nitpicking or every little thing when you should be a little more loose. The most frustrated sign is Libra, because it doesn't let the little things go. But the ones that do become the most beautiful and most angelic and the most missed and the most wanted ever. All right, Scorpio. While we are pulling up Scorpio, I'm going to do a shameless plug for the most amazing event on Friday, the X Moment, Claiming Your Destiny. It's the live stream. It's going to be happening at 4 p.m. now, Friday, here at the High Vibe TV Hypergate Studios. And this is all about 2025 and my biggest prediction, using cracking all the codes of old prophets, astrologers, and finding the signature in the astrology that they were trying to get out, that I'm surprised that nobody's been doing that work, and found the X date, found the moment of when humanity's biggest shift's going to be, and also going into 2025 and how to prepare and making sure that you're on the right tracks right now before Pluto leaves Capricorn. This is an event you do not want to miss, or just miss out on your whole fucking train and end up into the fucking Matrix with all the demons that are waiting to steal everybody that want to just act like it's no big deal happening right now, and even more importantly by March and April. All right, Scorpio. All right, Scorpio. This is a weird horoscope. Happy birthday, by the way. To be a Scorpio in 2024, you're the only sign that's really going through like a what the fuck. With Pluto, that's been just going back and forth at the bottom of your chart more than any other sign in our lives. Mentally and emotionally speaking, it's like, you're morphing into one version of yourself and then coming back to this other version in your mind. That Mars opposition happening at the top of your chart about your success and your beliefs and where does it all come? But now it's coming into that big clash, and that big clash for you is really, I think that you want to feel comfortable, but there's some part of you that can't, because you're hyper fixated in your mind on how you want it all to look and be. Pluto disposits your first, since you're Scorpio. But what's interesting is that this is an interesting moment about this career element and being successful that's in conflict with your own inner assumptions, ways that you think you need to be. Like, I don't know why, but Scorpios are throwing their own handcuffs on themselves about their life. That 6th house Aries with Mars that's been already coming to this 10th house, and it will to oppose many times and retrograde there. But the big part of this is, I feel that with this sun in Scorpio, like this is like, okay, the transformation of self is really about moving out of 16 years of like, what's the smart move? So it's like taking off this and staying in the same environment or the same kind of vibration, like allowing yourself to fully shift out of what you're used to. Right? That can be a big move. It can be switching into, you know, the role of caretaker, right? It could be also, you know, if you're a woman and you didn't have a baby, like this is going to be a hard transit of like accepting, I'll never be a mother. You thought you had accepted it, but you didn't. Or you're a Scorpio and you're about to be a mother or father or whatever, and you're like tripping the fuck out secretly. But also, how are you going to handle the money and the career and the day-to-day grind? The South Node in your 12th is not allowing you to find peace in past toxic places. And I'm not talking about people, even though it can be, but I think that for you, it's more like places you like to escape. That Jupiter in the 8th is your midterm about like, do you remember what lights you up? Because it's almost like you feel like there's not a lot of fire there, not a lot of passion, not a lot of intensity. So it's like the edge is what you are really desperately looking for, but you can't pin it where it is. I think that you've kind of been overworking and kind of living a certain kind of like regime. I don't know. I'm getting like a vision of like, you know, it's like if you were to go to a gym, it's like, or I don't know, the military, it's like, you need to do 10 push-ups, you need to do 100 push-ups, you need to do this, or it could even be like having a certain way that life has to be all the time. And it's like, you're a Scorpio. Like, you attract things. You don't chase. So like, I feel like you're chasing. You're trying to figure out how to manifest through this when it's like, stop trying to figure it all out. Learn to attract again. Learn to be smarter, work smarter, not harder. Because I think that your problem is you're really working hard with little results. Whether you're trying to fix a relationship or get a relationship, with Uranus in the 7th, it's the excitement. You had all the good transits with relationships. So you were given all these amazing blessed ones. If you didn't get it, you were a piece of shit that just wanted to stay in your own little fucking cave. God bless your soul, but missed out on a lot of good opportunities. You can still get some, but during these times, not really about new relationships for anybody that actually will work. So yeah, you know, they're constantly needing adjustments, Uranus, right? In the 7th. Like, so there is no happy space. I think that's the other thing. There is no permanent happy space. Scorpios are about to get their biggest, hardest lesson of life. You always were looking for that space where everything stays safe, but we live in a world of death. There is no safe space, meaning it's nice. That's why the 4th house actually rules kind of like our family memories and our past. I know 12th house does, but that goes way farther out. That goes spiritual. That goes into like more nostalgia. But the actual like record keeping of that in the 4th house, right? It's connected with the 10th. Like there's a record about it. Like and so we live in this world that you have to like realize that there is nothing safe forever. And I think that you could be, again, mental health issues I've been talking about with y'all, like about this fear of death, anxiety, you know, because what's happening is like the old you's dying, right? And then you're stepping in this new you where it's like, you're not really sure. So you're dealing with an instability of surety, how you're going to pull it all off. How am I going to pull off what I need to do? The problem is that you keep worrying about it. The problem is that you keep, you know, trying to like do what others might want, but maybe they're not asking as much that you think. Like, I think that you're trying to outshoot what is possible and not having the basic conversations. You're trying to prove yourself in a way that actually isn't the way into the panties of the girl or into the, I don't know if girls say that, but into the fucking shorts of the dude. Like, whether it's your lover or whether it's a new person or whatever, like you're trying to win them in the wrong ways. You're overtaxing yourself. You're working too hard. You're trying to prove yourself and you're becoming bitter. Like you're becoming like not that excited, right? You're not seeing Scorpios light up the world right now. You're seeing them retreating because they don't know what to be. This was just like why are Scorpios dealing with this like big secret? I mean, with Venus and Saturn in square, and Saturn's in your fifth with Neptune and Venus in your second, it's almost like you're afraid to express what you really want. So you could be dealing with either a relationship you're afraid to, even though they're not a problem. It's more like you're afraid of doing the wrong thing. And then you're the one who then apologizes for it. So you do a wrong thing and then you apologize and you're like, I didn't think that was that bad. Oh, I don't know. I always find that with second house, fifth house stuff. It's like, it's also the hard testament of like, you're basing your whole life of happiness off money, or when something arrives, when something is created right now. And it's like, you are missing the whole boat. You were never about that. But you are moving into a world like that, but with the passion and with all that, and going to have all these great things. But it's like, you're at a moment of the biggest transition of your life where you're realizing there is no safe place. Everything dies. Right? So I think that you need to remember that, one, you're a Scorpio, right? You need to have attachments and connections. So you need to make sure that you're doubling down on reattaching and staying attached instead of thinking that your attachment comes from trying to, make some little weird little thing work, or your work be better or something in a world where outside here, fucking the whole world's fucking not barely running normal. Like, stop trying to be so normal. What makes you stand out? That's going to be part of this Mars opposite Pluto too. And that's the conflict, is what makes you stand out in the fiery Leo that Mars will come to eventually. But at the same time, that opposition to Pluto at the bottom of your chart, like that you're too afraid that it's going to disrupt some sort of part of this deep place you're trying to build, right? So it's like again, like any Scorpio rising, like you don't want anybody to know where you live or anybody to know where you're at, or it's like, wow, you really are that fucking freaked out? So it's again, off trust, but also it's a fear of acting the way you want to act without like, oh God, am I going to be okay? Or am I going to get too deep in a position and then it all dies and then I have to go through trauma and pain again? You need to get rid of this whole fear of death. You need to get rid of this. Like you're going to keep having more deaths come into your life or bad things happen because you keep thinking about it. And that's Pluto in the third. You keep thinking about the worst thing. I have Pluto in my third natal. Trust me. Takes a long time, but you learn to stop looking at the worst of it all the time. But to be going through that for 16 years. You haven't even seen what safe and comfortable is yet. Yet you're protecting it as if it is the only safe place. So wherever you think is the safest place right now isn't. And wherever you're trying to do so much to keep it protected is because it's not the safest place. There's another place that Pluto's going to help you discover over 20 years, and it's way farther out in a weirder place than you think, an unpredictable place. You have to also remember that life's unpredictable. People's emotions are unpredictable. You can't control anybody's emotions. Everybody's going to feel differently at different times all the time. Can't be afraid of people. You're really dealing with a death anxiety, and you're also dealing with the fear of people leaving, abandonment. Because really that Pluto coming to Aquarius in the fourth house is the fear of abandonment, which you've already had most of your life, but now you're going to be dealing with it on a massive level. So it's like you're kind of subconsciously not achieving that great right now in your work life, and not because you if you were to, you're afraid that you'll lose it all, and you can't be. You have to be secure. Being secure means if I lose a person, if I lose this job, if I lose anything, I'm a badass motherfucker with passion, and I can attract the next thing. That's life. So you have to get back to your security of like, I'm not afraid. If I lose it, I lose it. Part of life. So really your attachments that you've mentally thought all or nothing, Why is it your career and your day-to-day work life going with all these ideas and all these things you keep putting effort into? It's because you subconsciously are sabotaging it because you're too afraid to actually become the success that you want to be. And you're also not paying attention to the communication that you need to be having with relationships and people to actually get to what's really wanted on the other sside, opposed to you trying to do it this other way. So you take one thing like, I want you to work hard. Okay, fuck. That was just a little part of it. It wasn't the, like, I wasn't, you know, I'm not going to get off because you became now the biggest career ever, you know, like that's not, like, I think that you're really kind of lost in, like, I think that you would rather be dazed and confused, but you're not dazed and confused. You're like literally, you know, stepping into that territory of like psychological, like obsessed fear of and acting off those impulses that go off that, like, oh, I don't want to lose this, or I don't want to miss out on this, or I don't want to not be able to attract this, or I don't want to, if, you know, it's like you're, you know, with Uranus, you're in the 7th house, like you're dealing with relationships that are eccentric and do feel magical and exciting, but at the same time, like they don't just operate normally, they break down and The more unique it is, the more it's going to break down. It's in the shop more. So I think you need to realize that, you know, the highs and lows that you're going through and the unpredictabilities in your relationship world are part of the fucking moment. That is not because of you. Oh God, I gotta fucking do this. Like you're over trying to fix it 24/7 instead of just being like, fuck, okay. All right, we'll fix it. We'll find a way to fix it. But it's you needing to show up now, communication wise and emotionally, because you're not. You're like, I think if anybody's with a Scorpio right now, Scorpio ascendant, it's like they are so in their mind about it all that they're not really there with you. And you need to like snap your fucking, wait, hell, are you there with me? Let's talk. And then Scorpio, you need to actually like spill your guts out. You don't need to cut. I know you would rather, it seems like a cool idea. I'm trying to wake your Scorpio back up. Like fucking, it's Halloween, like spill your guts out. But you know, for some reason you're locked up. And I think this Mars in opposition to Pluto is because you're afraid of becoming something that actually that you'll lose it all. You don't want it to fully all happen. Or you also are a fear of becoming a success because, you know, you want to be able to have a foundation, but you don't even know what a foundation looks like yet. Right? You've always lived in weird places or somebody else's place, Uranus. Somebody else's place, Pluto, somebody else's thing, a friend of a friend, the lover that I moved in with, you don't know how to do it on your own. The best friend, right? Like every Scorpio, I'm living with my friend. You don't know what it looks like yet to build one. So stop. You need to just stop freaking out about all this stuff because it's like you're kind of like not here, but you're here and you're freaking out and you're doing all this stuff and it's not, you're missing out on life. You're missing out on your connections. You're missing out on friends. You're missing out on life. You're missing out on love. You're missing out on, it's like you are in panic mode, really. And it's your birthday time and you're actually the most scared person of the whole universe and you're a Scorpio. That should wake you up. You got 4 of Cups. Boy, you just think that no gift is coming, but you can't see all the gifts that are happening. So you keep focusing that nothing's going to happen or that you're going to lose everything and nothing will come in to replace that. You need to wake the fuck up. You have so many gifts. You need to learn to ask, but also you have to learn to see the gift and actually take it too. And actually connect with the gift and can actually emotionally, I think for you, you're in this kind of dead space where you don't think anything good's happening and that you're just, let me just keep working the grind. And, you know, it reminds me of an old song. It's called The Pretenders by Jackson Browne. You're living that life right now. I dare you to go listen to the song and read the lyrics. You're living that life. Stop pretending. Stop being part of that matrix idea because it's never going to get you to your passions or who you are or how do you really be who you want to be. And stop pretending to be something. Just be it. And also be the other layers and upon layers of who you are. You're not one-dimensional, but for some reason, you become. All right, I need to get this done. I need to get home. Doing these horoscopes. Everybody, okay, we want your sun sign. Because I spend the time. So, Sag, I know I went really hard on Sages last week. I'm going to continue. I just think that this is oof. One, I'm just preparing you with positive love and support behind all this for Sag risings. Nothing but love. If you are doubling down into a relationship or in a relationship doubling down or trying to go into a relationship, you notice how I'm using an opposite instead of leaving one? Because doubling down would mean, instead of leaving, I'm going to double down on this one. You know, like your bets are going to come at a massive cost. And I think that, we'll start first. This Venus now has arrived in your sign, but the sun's in the 12th house with Mercury. So, that Venus squaring Saturn in your 4th house. Like this is where, like, I've been saying to Sagittarius for a long time, Sag rising is like, you guys are in the messiest situations when it comes to home life, family, all that shit. Even though it might look good, it's like sloppy, right? It's like your emotions are sloppy. You're it's like the constant trying to keep it together, but there's a beautiful part about it spiritually, but then it's also like, there's something that's not together. I mean, you're building a new foundation, so that's a good thing. But I think that you're trying to already live in the castle before it's even built when we're not even done with the moat yet. But the other part of it is like emotional, sloppy situations that can't be disregarded because Venus in your sign is an interesting one at this moment because it's like, Venus does disposit your 11th house. That's where the South Node is, and that's being dispositive, and Taurus your 6th. It's like you're dealing with a friend that you're thinking is a lover. One day you're going to wake up and go, thank you for saying that shit. I wish I would have listened, but I understand why now. I feel like I'm talking to Sag risings for over the next 6 months, like to where when all this shit that's happening already in your life now, that you'll be able to come back and be like, you know what? Fuck, dude. Fuck. Because that Jupiter retrograde is your midterm of, okay, where is it not that actually connected to who I am? Because it's so weird. Venus is in mutual reception to this Jupiter because Jupiter would rather be in Sag and Venus would rather be over there in Gemini in the 7th house. But what's happening is I think that what's building is this realization that you're not in Kansas at all anymore. And how the fuck did you end up over here? It's like this weird moment of you realizing, how did I end up over here? How is my life over here? Why am I really focused, or why is this person around? How did my life end up in this place? Because what's happening is like, there's of course the issues with that North Node, Chiron in the 5th. I mean, I think you need to go love boldly, but it always is going to come with the cost of like, it's not as bold as you wanted. Or you turn the idea of somebody's identity and it's really revealing it's not that. So it's kind of like, whoa, I always looked at them that they were going to be this kind of person and all that, and they're not that. They're actually what I actually feared the most, because that's where that Pluto and Capricorn in the 2nd house and the opposition to Mars is in the 8th. So this is where it's like, you have turned a really rusty penny into a gold bar, and it's not. Meaning, it's a copper penny. It's not even a Lincoln wheat penny worth some money, okay? We're talking like a basic 20 21 Philadelphia mint penny that looks as light as and shiny as anything, and you're thinking it's gold, right? So the problem is that let's just say this on a level. In every area of your life, including your own look of who you are, your own self-worth, your own ideas and communication, your own personal life, your own love and happiness, your own day-to-day lifestyle, your own relationships, in every area, your dynamic passions, your belief systems, the career you do, the friends you have, and your spiritual life, all could be 1 million times more better and more higher quality and valuable. So what you're dealing with is the gutter. Pluto in the second at the end, right? People who have that always feel like they are the gutter. They don't believe they deserve the thing, while at the same time they're trying to wear a fucking cheap suit and say it's worth $1 million. And with Mars in opposition and Cancer in the 8th, we all know that, you know, you find your comfort and security off passion, connection. Even some Sages, because you guys are all crazy fucking sex addicts, right? You guys like, where do I feel comfortable? Inside a hole, you know. But for some reason, you're not that comfortable. Because it's like the gloss is being removed. The rose-colored glasses are being removed. It's like, I always thought they were good looking. Now they're the ugliest thing I ever saw. Now they're real. This is who the real person they are? Fuck. There's some that over the last 12 years with Jupiter that's in the 12th, and then the 16 years combined, it's like there's some Sages that have just been in like the worst, like, of where it's like, really? Like really? Like you were really, okay, I guess you're into that. The whole time, like you've been just kind of like running away from what you really want and all the things in your life, and running towards the idea and this kind of like where culture, society, Capricorn, Pluto in the second, put a high priced value on, which was through social media, all these things. So it's like you've lived your life through this idea of the lens of what the world thinks is high quality and valuable. It's kind of the fake idea of things like, well, the proper relationship looks like this. The proper love and the proper happiness and the proper life looks like this. I'm sorry to tell you, we're about to reveal that that is not even what you think it is. You aimed and you got there, and then it's kind of like, oh, take off the masks, these people. You really have troll number one, you know, like under the mask. Oh my God. You're in a weird, tricky situation because you got yourself in the most colluded, diluted, also murky emotional situations that lack clarity and also are needing to be okay with building a foundation that's based off letting things go. The way that Sages build their foundation, because what happened with Jupiter? I'm going to have to, because, you know, the problem with Sag and Sag risings is they all think they know everything, and then they forget about their own astrology. What happened to Jupiter? His own mother, Rhea, had to say, honey, I'm hiding you, I'm taking you away in a cave to build your kingdom, to build your life, to build all this. I don't want your dad to eat you. I'm going to take a rock and I'm going to feed this rock in one of your blankets, and you're going to have to let all this go and one day come back and take on your daddy, and then you can build it, right? So there's a big let go. That's how the building of your foundation is. So, you know, I think that's the problem with Sages is like their idea, like especially Sages that are more established over the last, let's say 30 years since Saturn was here, is like, what do you mean? I built all this stuff. It's like, yeah, okay, it's gotta let a lot of it go in order to build the new thing. And it's always the stuff that's happening, especially with Pluto in the second, stuff that, you know, you thought would last forever, right? Although it's not a diamond, right? Pluto in Capricorn is not like the diamond in the rough, right? Even though it actually sounds so seductive, like it could be that. And that's the problem, is that you thought you found, and that you've always thought you found the diamond in the rough that you've been with, or that you found, or that you, if you're a single one, that you think you know what that looks like. That's been your problem. That really it's been more of an accessory or a handbag to your own ego's desires and wants. So really what you've wanted is a toy that like looks the part and acts the part. But that's the hard part, is I think that your toy isn't going to buy it anymore. And that's what's going to make you see the rose-colored glasses off, is like, uh-oh, they're not a toy. They don't want to be a toy. They don't want to be my accessory anymore. So the problem is that you made your relationships your accessories. Like, well, I've done a ton of readings with Sag rising. They're like, oh, well, I mean, like I'm a mom or I'm a dad, so that's why I'm with them. Like, oh yeah, they're a nice handbag for you to be a parent until when? At a certain point? Oh, well, they're, you know, what do you mean? They're great. They do this. But like, you know, it's like, yeah, but you really want all these things in your life and you don't do it. So it's like you live this kind of like weird life going for people that fit the narrative that you want it to be as an accessory. Instead of and that's where it gets sloppy, right? Because if you were to have like a big relationship with your handbag, or if a guy was to have a relationship with like, I don't know, his wallet, right? Like it doesn't do that much. It doesn't go that far. But the illusions we can create from that, right? Like, where's my wallet? Where's my handbag, right? Becomes subconscious. It becomes our keys, wallet, da-da-da-da. And so that's what you have as your relationships. The people that you don't know how to like let go of that subconscious energy of like, they're probably reflecting, whether it was a parent, or they're probably reflecting in very Pisces way, like not just a parent, but a parent, then maybe a person that you really don't like anymore, that they're the comparable, weird, delusional, like light glistening off the ocean version of all that you, for some reason, didn't deal with whatever the situations were in the past, right? So it's always like, well, on to the next, and erased my past, erased my past, erased my past. It never existed. It's not a big deal. What can you say? I'm the positive one. You know, this is bringing up your shadows of your past. Or even a partner bringing out their shadows, or you having to bring out a shadow. Something that you would hold to the grave. Or a white lie that's now turned into a really bad lie, whether it's from them or from you. And that's the confrontation of this Venus, is also that square to Saturn, saying, this isn't what you think it is. And that Mars in the 8th is, oh boy, I've been holding on to these deep feelings, and I don't know how to emotionally deal with it because I don't want to let go of the accessory. Meaning, going back to the coin analogy, like you really are at a place to where you've picked the store brand Cheetos or something, and you want a steak dinner. So if you're dating, by God, how did you end up with that? You should probably not send pictures, or, you know, take a look in the fucking mirror again. If you've been in deep relationship energy for a long time, it's kind of like, yeah, people do change after a while. They don't stay the same, and they don't act the same, and they don't be the same. And, you know, like, it's kind of like you've been living for their version of it and their belief system. So it's kind of like cultish too, with Jupiter in the 7th and Gemini, like, and Venus in your sign now. Like, I don't want to be part of this like cult vision, especially with the South Node there in the 11th. It's kind of like, well, I'm kind of living my life for my relationships, friend group, or their societal group. And I thought I connected with it, but really I have my own things I'm into that it's almost like people don't show up for the things that you want to, but you show up for as much for them. It's a fire sign problem, but for you, it's in some really weird areas here about beliefs, their vision of life. Your Uranus in the 6th. Is your life right when you think it's stable? It ain't. Still not going to be, especially on these last degrees over the next year. Like, there is no stability. And what's crazy is you've built this whole foundation. It's like the 3 little pigs. Sorry, it wasn't brick. Sorry, it wasn't even wood. You built this shit out of fucking straw. And I'm just here to just drop that bomb, however that plays out for you. But I'm just here to like plant that in you as an astrological truth that you're on straw thinking the winds aren't going to come, thinking that there is no way for a tidal wave to come because there hasn't been one for a long time. There's no way for the earthquake. There is no way for the hurricane. There is no way for any of these things to happen in the turbulent Pisces realm where Neptune in the 4th is emotionally brewing, right? Because the bigger the storm emotionally that's going to come, the silence, you don't see it. It's far away. That's why Sagittarius go through hurricanes emotionally in their life, because they don't want to believe it. They don't want to see it. It's like, it's a category 1. It's going that direction. It ain't coming this way. That's your problem. That when the biggest one of your life is coming, that's going to take everything away, like a Wizard of Oz style, you're like, okay, let's play. let's get deeper into this and let's not believe it. So it kind of becomes like, hey, I'm crazy. I know it's bad, but let me just make sure it's good because I don't want to be wrong. And whatever your belief is that's kept it going is ending. Meaning, well, they're sick, but they're not really sick anymore. They're always going to be healthy. No, now it goes to like, oh my God. Or like, they've got this issue. I know they're working through it. It's just going to fucking become inflamed and bring up all these other things. So that's why I brought up not just you with some secrets, but massive weird things you finding out that you're like, what? It's kind of like, I don't know why, but my guide wanted me to tell Sagittarius' story. I went to school, like my 6th grade teacher, like she didn't even know who her boyfriend was for years. He ended up being a porn star after like 5 years of being in a relationship. And dropped the bomb on her after like 5 years. And you would think, how can a woman not know that? This is before the internet. It wasn't like she was going into porn shops and buying videos. There's something for you where whether you're in one or you're entering one or you're interested in somebody, all of the above, there's something trying to protect you because you're about to get the hurricane of your life in these situations of things that go against your ethics, go against your belief systems, and take you away from your happiness, which it already has, and you've been dealing with issues with passion and connection. You're dealing with somebody who is been treated like an accessory by you and also now believes they're an accessory and has lost their value and self-worth in themselves. So that means weight gain, money loss, things that really don't let this move forward because you're not willing to own up to, you subconsciously choose the situations that are really about you not dealing with your past. It's kind of like Joe Biden, right? Sag rising. Let me marry the babysitter to the kids because my wife dies in a car accident. Guy had all the options probably in the world, right? No, he chooses the thing that reminds him of the tragedy. And who knows why she got in that car accident and lost the kid and all that. Like, there's some weird shit when you look at Sag risings about their family and their past and all that shit. And you guys are not squeaky clean. You guys got to stop acting like it. It's time for you guys to come out and just be like, look at how fucking dirty I am. And look at how fucking like fucked up I am and how much fucked up shit is in my past. And that's the thing is they don't tell the next partner the whole thing. So you're kind of on the hook, the line, and the sinker now of like, uh-oh, I can't get away with all this because things are popping up out of nowhere. And the same thing is happening with your partner. You're choosing a partner that has just as many faults as you, but that makes it look on you. And it's like going to be so weird to say the least. And people are not objects. I know that you're going to be like, don't say I look at it that way, but to be honest with you, the first thing about anybody in your life has been, what status can I get? What kind of money can I get? What kind of security can I get? What kind of this? It's like those little things made it look that much sweeter. And that's the problem. Or what job advance? You have not done it for love. And the ones you did do it for love, boy, oh boy, you have to work out on why you don't really want love, but you want status, accessory, the things that really are just trying to make you feel better when you want to, or to also sometimes with Pluto Capricorn, just do it because that's the right thing to do when really you just can wither away. And for the Sagittarius not in relationships, being the hussy around town or the man whore around town and going through the train of every single person that knows each other with the South Node in the 11th house is not something to be proud of. And there's not many options left for relationships. Four of Wands reversed. Well, that's a breakup, divorce, or a union that doesn't go through, if I were to use it as a love reading, but it kind of is for you because it's so much about love in your chart. It's like crazy. I will say that on a more spiritual level, what you always wanted it to be, it is it. Like that opportunity that you've always been to, you've already been living in and never turned into that. Wake up to that. Stop idolizing some fucking sunset and something with somebody who, God damn it, the more the sun comes down, the more gremlin they look. That's not the kind of accessory that you want. All right. Accessory to grossness and messiness was the charge filed by the court. All right. Capricorn. Oh, we're so close. My caps. Fuck. My cap risings. I think the Capricorns that are really just chilled out, kind of sitting back and watching are in the better space of their life. I read that, you know how crazy YouTube is? I can't believe I fucking give more of a sun sign horoscope than any astrologer on YouTube by just me starting to bring them back to get people to come to High Vibe or to at least just, hey, for the collective, I always give something. I've never read so many people. You fucking didn't give enough for Capricorn. Yeah, you guys timed it? How? I just want to say this. If you're a Capricorn rising, and you put a comment like that, how honest to God truthful is that? You are timing the horoscopes as if I have a timer? You think I have a timer? You think I'm like, next one. That's part of your Pluto problem is timing. right? The thing that you have to have. So your accessory is yourself. Like you've turned yourself into the handbag that you want to be, that hopefully the world wants to have as an accessory. But to be honest with you, from afar that looks good, but when it gets close, people are kind of like, well, I don't know about that. And that all depends on a couple things. One, this Mars Cancer opposite Pluto, right? So this is where this relationship thing is getting really tricky, right? Like, for some Capricorns, do I go fully into this relationship? For others, do I go back to an old one? For Capricorns in a relationship, boy, oh boy, are you thinking about the ex or a new one at the same time too? It doesn't matter. You're in that place. But there's this question on all of the situations of like, what the fuck? I think that you need to remember that, you know, it's okay to not know exactly who you are, but the scary part and the way that you can make this an easier transition for Pluto leaving your sign in the next 3 weeks, an easier way to understand this is with this Mars opposition is like, yo, you're not defining yourself based off some emotional situation in a relationship, okay? You're a Capricorn. So come back to yourself, realize Pluto is drilled to try and figure out who you really are, and it will reveal, like in timing, at the last minute, you'll get the fucking reveal. But this would be a moment to not base your life off defining it off a relationship. Again, I've said this is where, you know, because one, you're going to get hurt. Two, it could be an agent, which is a high probability, that's trying to take you out of your destiny. But now that we're in Scorpio season, this is about learning how to mingle and, you know, you're a very private person with people. You like to find people you can trust in your friend group. You don't like Capricorns. You know, it's more of like, it's sexy. I have a lot of friends for a photo shoot or something, but it's not like you really do have a lot of friends, right? You don't really connect deep to a lot of people. So I think for you, it's like learning to find like, okay, you need to have people that through this transition, that's going to be the biggest of your life in the next 3 weeks, of you finding who you really are, because you don't know right now. You think you are, but you don't. Remember that at the bottom of Pandora's box here, when Pluto gets there, it's going to reveal a jack in the box of something that you don't even know of who you really are, right? It's kind of like waiting for the magic 8 ball to tell you you're this. What? But you've done a good job on exploring all these ideas of who you are and actually embodying them and then having to reset the computer and start all over again. But my number one thing is not defining yourself through a relationship. Your big battle is going to be with relationships. And yourself, like fighting for what you need. And also, it's kind of opposite than Cancer. It's not about somebody trying to control you. It's you trying to control the situation on somebody else that they're going to feel repelled. Cap rising or Cap. So whoever it is that you're so focused on, let them be themselves. Stop trying to fucking change them and focus on yourself. Saturn in the 3rd, Venus in the 12th. This is going to be a really hard week in relationships for you. Like a lot of stuff, a lot of hard conversations, fights, things about the past or things that haven't been revealed yet are going to come out, okay? Also, maybe things that you regret or they regret saying, 100%, that are hard to take back. I like this Sun in Scorpio for you because it's like finding your tribe while you're undefined is also a bad thing in life, but it is where Pluto's dispositing. So to help yourself find yourself, it's actually through friends. It's through, you know, places in society where you can really trust. And I think this is kind of coming back to like, who are the people you really can trust instead of putting all of your trust in people that you're kind of like spewing over emotionally, but they're going to use it against you. I think it's the weirdest time ever for a Capricorn to go through the end of their Pluto transit because the South Node is in your 10th. So it's like it's not about your career defining it. It's literally about your personal life, and what that looks like and where you want to live and what you want your family to look like and all that. And that's so opposite of what you are, but you have to base that. No Capricorn's doing it right now. Most Capricorns are like, no, I'm basing it off this, or I want that person, or I want this, or I want my career, or I want that. It's like, or like, let's say you are actually about that right now. Well, you're picking the person that doesn't want a family. Or you're in the relationship for so long with the person that's over the whole family unit thing. And so there's a lot of you having to look at how relationships and your belief systems have been about them and how they're not matching up with actual facts and delusions, right? And also the fantasies you create, right? So you're dealing with this I don't know why. It's almost like, the fascination street that you think is the cure. Do you see how I reverse that? That really is not the cure. I know it's fun to say fuck it and go live that life, but it is a Pluto transit with Mars opposed to you. I would hate to say it, but this could be the death of you too, in metaphorical saying, with this Mars perfectly ready to align in opposition, as Pluto is still going to be in your sign, and really it's with Venus here square Saturn as that's building, as Uranus in your 5th with the sextile to Mars in the 7th, it's like you're ready to fucking jump in like crazy. And I hate the reset to be, I haven't talked about this much, but people born with Mars retrograde in Cancer, or the times of Mars retrogrades in Cancer, you're signing your destiny's death to the other person. So if you have a daughter like Kobe Bryant, it wasn't about his chart. It was about his daughter's chart. And always you see, I've done all the case study on this. People born with Mars retrograde in Cancer, the worst place to have it retrograde, they, in all the charts of their death, a significant person who nothing is happening to them in their chart, they take down to their death with them. So the question is, are you ready to sign your destiny away to somebody who has a questionable life, a questionable comfort zone already, and a questionable reality that actually could put you at death's door right when, and that's your transformation? You are dealing with the planet of death at the last part. So any astrologer would be a crazy person to not at least warn you as a Capricorn or Capricorn ascendant to be like, hey, I know you've made it this far. That's great. In all 16 plus years, you're fucking at the end. But yeah, let's tighten up the fucking boundaries to 100% right now, because I don't want you to fucking die off some stupid person and signing your literal karmic fucking life to somebody else's karma. And you're going to base your whole identity of what the world's going to be like, your family life, your home life, and all these things based off that. Because the problem is right now you're dealing with very basic situations, right? It's just really about where your personal life wants to be. And there's this clash. If you're married, you don't want to be with the person. Okay, well, you got to get through that first. You can't just go jump to the next person and fantasize about that. If you're single, but you want to be in a relationship, but it's probably the person that's not providing any assurance of comfort or any things, but you're ready to fucking sign your life away to it and take on their karmic debt. Right? Or you're single and you're like, I don't want anybody. And so you're fighting people away from you. You're like, no, get away from me. And it's like, okay, you want to die alone, huh? Really? That's what you really want. So your wish shall be my command. So I'm just going to be real, and I know it's Scorpio season, but that Pluto is being disposited by the sun and Mercury, but especially that sun. For 28 days of Scorpio, 28 degrees is Pluto Capricorn. Then guess what? Pluto Aquarius with Scorpio disposits Pluto again, and it activates that Uranus in the 5th. And that's where you can start the new revolution for love, not in this 3 weeks. This is the 3 weeks of a no-go zone. If you're going to be in a relationship, it's friends, benefits, but you have to learn, and that's kind of scary territory with this Mars opposite your Pluto. So I would say for you, it's more about how do you really now keep your boundaries up? Make sure that you understand, like, what are you fucking doing right now? I guarantee you're going to have some friends or somebody around, or you're going to learn things about their life and people they're with that are extremely questionable, or your friends being like, why are you with this person? You gotta listen. You gotta listen. Like you're playing with death. You're playing with other people's karmic story that they're subconsciously not realizing it, but they're attracting you in because they want, you're a perfect candidate as somebody that's going to transition into a whole entire new life, to be like, here, take my fucking karma and go through it with me. Because you really don't know where anything is going. Six of Pentacles in reverse. Hate to say it, but this is the beggar card. Don't be a beggar. You need to deal with the shit that's in front of you, like literally. And also it's the card of like, you're not doing any charity for yourself or helping others when you can't even do it for yourself. You need to be a charity for yourself first. You need to take care of yourself and deal with the things that are facing you that don't allow you to be you, especially in the relationship realm, especially if you've been in a relationship long-term that you're not happy about. Like you have to put the full end, or you're trying to enter into one right now. Like, are you that desperate? All right. Aquarius. It's funny. I hadn't even looked at the chat this whole time. I will, though. Look for a second. We lost a bunch of people. It looks like 656 people. All right. It's for all Capricorns. Capricorns, you guys have been you got Pluto in your sign, so I'll give you a pass, but you guys are cranky. I mean, is this for younger ones? What do you mean? It's for all Capricorns. I don't give a fuck if you're fucking 1 or you're 89 going 100. Okay? If you're really old, that relationship with that fucking like thing on TV that you want to buy, toxic, that you're finding yourself by, or, you're going to just stay like the single old lady that just is the old maid, right? No, that's not going to be, okay, you want to be an old maid? Really? Pluto's knocking on your death door. Or, you're going to stay with the old, comfortable man that really, God, you guys don't even live in the same energy because they can't even handle themselves. They're like a little baby that you're with, right? So, like, I don't give a fuck how old you are. That's for all caps and caps risings. I know I'm on Aquarius, but like, the reason why you're even asking that is because you're so fucking triggered. You're now trying to put the blame on younger Capricorns. All right, Aquarius. Oh, the dramatic energy of your life. Well, I know that you hate drama, but you secretly love it. It's actually the only way that you actually make it to your success in life is through drama. So you should probably kind of love it a little bit more. That sun at the top of your chart here, and you're in your 10th house. Extreme high and lows is how you are known. And that's how your career works. It's extreme highs and then dead. An extreme high and then dead. There is no steady like Leo, right? You can't be a king or a queen with a Scorpio midheaven, okay? So like Leos with Aquarius risings, they never keep a kingdom. They can't. I don't know how. So you have to remember that you're not really good with kingdoms. Meaning you're expecting everything to be so linear and figured out and stable when it comes to your life. Well, sorry. You know, maybe your home, but a whole enterprise and all these things. I think that what you're dealing with here is with Pluto just getting disposited at the last degree, Capricorn, 12th house. You know, at the same token, I mean, there is the dramatic energy of the love scenario with Jupiter in retrograde. So it's like you're having a midterm on love really fast out of nowhere, and you thought you knew everything, and you know, boy, you thought it was good luck. And it's kind of like, well, the facts got to show you if it's good luck or not. That's why I warn everybody about Jupiter and Gemini. I did it. You can still purchase them on High Vibe on the link. You'll see it on High Vibe about Jupiter, Gemini, and what happens. And what you think is the most best thing always isn't. Jupiter and Gemini, especially during the retrograde. And so for every sign, look at whatever that house is. But for Aquarians, like, your love life is not all that exciting or all that benefit that you think it is. It's actually starting to reveal that because you're in the biggest trap. And I think that, you know, for you, it's like, what do you want to escape before you have to do the biggest breakout of your life, of your identity, to figure out your life through having to break out of something that you're like, what the fuck? You know, that Venus in the 11th house, square Saturn. This is some really deep self-worth issue shit. I know I've been talking about it, but Aquarians, like when I just heard that Ashton Kutcher is going to leave the country if Trump fucking wins, I was like, geez, this guy is what? Because he's going to expose all your pedophilia and child fucking molesting? Like, what the fuck? Aquarians are running like crazy from anywhere where they are like, I don't want to feel trapped. But it's like, they're also not running away from the biggest trap. Like, Trump's not going to fucking do that to fucking Ashton Kutcher. Ashton Kutcher does that to himself through doing crazy shit. So, a good example, when Pluto's at the very end here, the question in Capricorn is, you think you have control, but there is no such thing as control, because the only sign that has the most atheist, the most, I don't know if God really did that, is Aquarius. Aquarians and God have a bad relationship. Every other word to name the word God or spirit or any of that shit, and also put it to guides or as many guides as possible, it's Aquarius. Because you are the one ultimately in control. So you believe in free will fully. When the whole irony of Pluto and Capricorn is dark truth is that fate rules all, right? That you don't rule anybody. That's essentially you're an Aquarius. In that there is sometimes no explanation why this kid survives and this one doesn't. And you can't control your life. So the problem is I think that you're like subconsciously in this place like that you have figured out the solution to your instability and highs and lows, that you found this middle ground and you found this place that's going to bring you all the happiness in your life and finally give you a place of comfort and security and all that shit. And I'm here to tell you, it's like, that's actually the opposite, whatever you're moving towards in those, it's specific areas, right? I said that you're going to have the most dramatic, like, love story ever. Like, hopefully it doesn't turn into Romeo and Juliet, right? You don't want to kill each other at the end. But I think for you, a lot of this is more like, okay, you need to look at what is a trap fully that is because I feel like it's going to give me either some sort of like neurotic 12th house like idea of authority or up level in the hierarchy that really it doesn't. It just gives away more of your autonomy because you're actually about your autonomy, right? You like to be your independent self, but it's like the weird part of Pluto at the end of the 12th is like you've been in the deepest trap of your life and you're realizing it because the trap starts to reveal itself of the trap that you just have been moving into over the last year. Is like you just went into the deepest trap of your life. Especially since Pluto went direct in October, deepest trap of your life, right? Like, so it's like, what the fuck? You either double down on drugs or you double down on some place where it's like, what are you connecting to that you think is going to be so good? Like, it's like, this is like trying to wake you up from like a dream of where you think you had control when really like there's no control, right? Because that Pluto in Aquarius is not about liberating you. Pluto is going to be like, no, stay here, Uranus, stay here, Aquarius. And you're going to be like, what? There will be no freedom for you, right? It'll be all these things that you think are the most magnificent thing and there are some things, but they need to be connected to a spiritual truth. You could even be switching religions, which would be fucking stupid at this point. Because like this is where you're kind of grasping at straws to stay around, to stay alive, to stay in the matrix. When the whole point for you is to get rid of all the things in the matrix and then change this matrix. But it's like you're playing the matrix 2 in the highest right now. You're becoming the not so extraordinary. You're becoming the ordinary. That's the trap. And you try to find your flavor. Like, well, I add a little bit of extra salt and pepper on this. It's still the ordinary. And I think that for you, your idea of the ordinary is kind of this place that has become, that's exactly where my dream is. When the truth is it's going to be your greatest trap that you're going to try and get away from like crazy. This Mars in Cancer in the 6th house is like, it's like this idea of a lifestyle. So it's almost like watching lifestyles of the rich and famous and then like you coming up with this perfect version and that's the ordinary, but I'd make it my own extraordinary way when it's anything but. Right? So you're living your life off like what this kind of weird emotional like thing is about having to deal with reality in life. And then at the same time, kind of like just trying to like embody something that you're not comfortable in. And then trying to be like, well, you know what? If I just take the medicine enough days, the bitterness of it, I'll accept it. It's like, this is where the sun in Scorpio season with Pluto dispositing in your 12th is like, wow, you're really ready to take on and really take the responsibility. And Pluto is already in Capricorn. The responsibility is something that you're going to want to fucking have to use the whole 20 years to detangle yourself out of. So like everything's on the chopping block. Everything. Because that's all everything you're bringing into Pluto and Aquarius in 3 weeks is baggage. Okay, and the UFO that's coming down to take all the Aquarians up, it's not going up, it's going down. Deeper and deeper into the emotional worlds that you hate. So the worst thing is to be deeply emotional in a trap energy, whether it's a relationship, a job, or lifestyle change, because really this has been about this like extended period of this like, my life is changing, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. It's just been a slow Mars. It's going to retrograde and go, ha. Because especially Aries rules your 3rd house. So it's going to be like, oh, okay, that was some stimulating idea. It's like the idea of what something could be. But again, Venus in the square from the 11th house to the 2nd house is this insecurity based off, I want to be this in reality. I want to be seen as this. I want people to know me as this. I want to have this. I want to have what everybody has that I never have had. I said it. So I will tell you for this horoscope for this week, Aquarians, congratulations. You got what everybody's had that you don't want. If I could, I will never have Pluto in my 12th. I will never have Pluto in my own sign. I will never have Pluto in Cancer. I'll never have that. So I also understand that I probably don't know the full extent of how that will be. But as your opposite and as an astrologer, if it were me, just use basic astrology. The 12th house is where you leave it all at the door. You just leave it all and you enter into the whole new sunrise. And you don't bring anything into the sunrise. You don't bring anything into the moment of equalization to define the day. Right? You don't bring yesterday into today. Right? Because it's about this spark of really trying to figure out who you are and also the complexities of who you are. But I guess you really want it to be super complex, so you're choosing to keep all the baggage, right? I think that, traps aren't a bad thing. Maybe that's how you are going to learn and grow through this period. So this is kind of a weird horoscope because it's like, well, I wish you the best luck with your traps. I wish you the best luck on the things you've doubled down on that you think are you, or you think will be you, or the beliefs that you have right now, because a lot of them are really misguided and crazy. And to be honest with you, I think one day you'll look and be like, I was thinking with my head, but I was putting these kind of wild emotions in front of them, but they weren't actually of substance. I was trying to make substance out of something that wasn't substantive, because you don't have substance right now. You don't think you look good enough. Saturn in the second. You're having problems with manifesting what you want. So when you start getting Saturn in the second, it's really the challenge, and I'll keep it very basic here, but way more than any other signs ever had to go through. I mean, I could probably find it in our lifetimes through another sign, but it would take me probably a day or two to find a Saturn that's disposited by Pluto that's in the second house while Pluto's at the last degree about to ingress into their own sign. That's how rare this is. Okay, I already can do the math in my head. Hasn't really happened. So, what does that mean? Saturn's big challenge for all of us when we go through it, except for you right now, even though you are going through it, but yours is on another level. Meaning, when we don't make a lot of money through Saturn in the second, when we don't really think that we're that good looking, when we have these issues with being able to manifest and actually see the value in ourselves, even though we know it, we believe it, we see it long term, but boy, oh boy, living it day to day out, it becomes tough to say no to the temptations, right, of the easy route. It's hard, but that's part of what makes you great through a Saturn transit in the second house. The problem with you is that Pluto sitting in the 12th, where it's being dispositing that energy, and having Saturn in that second house that's stopped, not moving anywhere, is like, boy, oh boy, like, and it's only going to be like, fuck, when Saturn stations direct on like the 15th, it's like 4 days of Saturn direct dispositing Pluto at the end of your 12th house, literally where the Sun and Pluto met, January 20th of this year. That for you, you're still caught up on this world you think is the future when it's really just the end of the last 16 years. Nothing in your life new is happening. What it's setting everything up for is a traditional 12th house failure, right? A self-implosion, a self-inflicted, what the fuck moment. Nothing is not going to be about new because Pluto's in Capricorn with Saturn dispositing it. And so you've collected things, and then that Pluto came in your signs. You're like, but I saw it now. I saw my future. It's going to be this. No, you didn't. The other thing is you're going to have to stay on top of like what the hard part of Pluto and Aquarius is. It's not going to be like Capricorn. It's going to be like, how do you stay ahead of yourself, and how do you stay ahead of the times when you're going to be so set back because you're right now thinking you're in the future when really the big hook's coming to try and, be like, no, it's not this. Right? So everything from work, relationship, like every part of your life is on the chopping block right now. Like if I were an Aquarius rising, I would literally just go, I'm just keeping the most bare necessity of my life that I need right now. And I'm ready to go find what I am. I'm ready to go jump into this crazy UFO, whatever the fuck it is. And wherever it goes up, it goes down, it goes left. I have no attachments. I have no crazy shit. So I can really find where I'm going to attach to things, because trying to bring all that in, they're not going to like it. The job ain't going to like it. The friends aren't going to like it. Every situation you're going to deal with is going to be Pluto of bitterness. I don't like this. Nope, 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 nope. And even you, right? So it's like, are you really, I think that this is where your test of Aquarius is going to be. Self-worth, are you just desperate? 2, Pluto into Aquarius. That's an interesting one because you're the humanitarian, right? So if you're really a humanitarian, Pluto's going to reveal your shadow. That actually you're not cool with telling people about your motives and not telling people about what you actually wanted them in your life for or whatever. That's going to be the crazy part, right? Like, wait, you mean, like people are going to be like, wait, you mean to tell me like you were unsure? You just kind of like did this because you just never had this or whatever it might be. Like, are you strong enough to actually be like, listen, this is a trap that I didn't realize that I got in, and I'm trying to control my life. I'm trying to have more than I can chew, and I'm not being responsible with that. And I need to be a good fellow human being, be honest with you about these things. Can you do that, or is that actually the emotional place you only know how to do for friends, but you can't do it for coworkers, you can't do it for lovers? That's the weird thing is for you, it's always Aquarius, it rules the 11th house. Associates, friends, people that are easy to tell things to because if they leave, whatever. But when it gets to these deeper places, boy, oh boy, you don't know how to do that. It's always like this big deal. The amount of stress an Aquarius goes through to have a conflicting conversation is like the scariest thing to witness in the world. I couldn't imagine where you're at right now and how stacked the chips are in such a daunting place of like, you're probably avoiding it all and trying to just go into, nothing's happening. I'll deal with it later. Hopefully it'll just get destroyed. And so like what you're doing is like, hopefully it just all gets destroyed. But the question is your humanitarian enough to build the self-worth and to tell people with Venus square Saturn and with Pluto in the 12th and all this Scorpio just pausing all that, and with Mars in Cancer about to come into Leo to retrograde in your 7th house. So relationships, it's so fucking insane. It's like 2009. That's when Mars retrograded in Leo last. And it came direct at the beginning of 2010. It was that same December into January, February right there of 2010. And I know Aquarians lost so many weird relationship situations, and it really was it ended up in way weird situations and some really horrible ones. I know one that lost a fiance. Like it's not good. Okay. Then you end up on someone's couch. Like, I hope you're prepared. And it can really not be that crazy, but you're not paying attention. Like, at all. Or you're spiraling into your own mental demise over the world and fuck the world energy. And I'm telling you, it doesn't have to be that way. You don't have to be in these traps. You don't need to be in these places where you're not. It's like you've just literally just spent 16 years trying to control everything secretly, subconsciously, and believing in that you can be the one in control of destiny. When the truth about Aquarius is that it's connected to Uranus. And even he thought he was the ruler of the universe. And his own son came, chopped his nutsack off, kicked him out, and took his throne. And I think that, with Pluto and Hades and this whole idea of that, I think that for you, it's like life is only hell because you choose to continue to connect, commit, and also have your little crutch that really is always bad, whatever it is, that you can try to continue through in this melodramatic way. It's like you're kind of living a melodramatic life, even though you're creating the most dramatic situations. You're just waiting for them to pop. And it's like right now it seems like that ain't gonna happen. I've got control. This is the right thing. It's destined. When actually you're right. It's destined to fail. Not because God hates you or not because it's a bad thing. It's because it's not in your alignment. It's not for this course of craziness that you're supposed to take. It's actually the fucking one thing when you look in the mirror, you look at it, if you were to look at your life as a picture, you'd be like, shit, what the fuck? Why did I do that? It'll be funny one day, but right now, I know you're deep in it. And it's okay. Beggars can't be choosers, right? Or in your case, I guess you think you've changed the whole world, and the beggar that can be a chooser. Page of Pentacles reversed. Boy, are you afraid to really talk about the fucking truth when it comes to some real ass shit about how you really feel, about what you really want and what you're really not getting. Also, it's like, this is a lot of worry about things you've been manifesting. It's also a lot of worry that you've kind of like never going to get anything good again. But that's not true, of course. But it's like, what's in the way? 12th house is like literally what's in the way. And what's in the way for you is you have Pluto rising right now, right? But it's going to come into its place of the first house where the ego lives in the darkness. You don't even know what you want. Well, how are you so sure? You've never even stayed on one thing for long enough to know what you really want. You don't even like the things that you really want. What you really want is the thing that you can't have because you don't want to show up to it fully. And so once you learn that, because that's the Aquarius conundrum, right? Look at Jennifer Aniston. That bitch fucking nobody wants to be with her, right? Even when we thought, oh, she's going to get married and oh, it's her and Brad. Oh, no, it's her and Justin. Oh, no, it's her and this. What does she do now? Nobody knows. So, Justin Timberlake, is he just going to be an NSYNC forever? And no, I guess he's a movie star? Well, not really anymore. Is he doing music? Yeah, it's questionable. I can just go down the line of Aquarians, and it's very easy to see. All of them are just, they have no idea what the fuck. And that's okay. I'm here to tell you, it's better to just be honest with people that Venus square Saturn is going to be a fucking karmic reaper or benefit on whether or not you can be honest about your insecurity and how you're really, like how you really feel, and and being a good human being and being like, hey, this is the story. This is like where I'm at. Because instead of like trying to be this version of you can't be, like, it's okay for you. I'm not telling you to surrender, but it's okay for you to just be honest and be like, you know what? I don't want to fight this battle. I don't want to do this job. I don't want to do this marriage. I don't want to do this relationship. I don't want to do this. You need to get more in touch with what you're here to clear it all out. You're here to clear it all out. And for some reason, you chose to add the most amount of trash in the moment when the biggest clearing out is. And you feel like I can't throw these things away because I just took them on. Yes, you can. We've all had to throw away brand new things before. All right, Pisces, last one. Well, Pisces, I think that this is a good moment for you. There's a lot of insight about your long term, and I think that's important because that Sun in Scorpio activating Pluto at the end of your 11th house. Now we got about 30, but not even 30 days left, 20, say 27, 20, depending on this, 26 days, right left in your 11th. And I think that, you trying to find where you fit in this world has been difficult. But I think with the Sun in the 9th, it's like, be open-minded. There's a million different places you can end up. And because Saturn in your sign, and we're going to see Venus in the 10th square that. So especially when it comes to your goals, all these things in the 10th house you want to have, it's like you're not fully developed to figuring out the structure of your identity. Neptune's there. Pluto's in this 11th house, and here's that Mars in the 5th. It's okay. You have the best astrology for this clash. You're in the clash of trying to understand your creativity and how it's going to get out to the world while you're developing yourself, while you're looking at all the options. Like, it's not that hard. But for some reason, you know, I guess it's in traditional style of being a Pisces with Jupiter here in the fourth. It's like you can't wrap your mind around it, so it's a lot of emotion. It's like the frustrations of Saturn have maybe got to you. But that's what I'm trying to say is like, look bigger. Like, look at, like, part of Saturn is you're being developed for something big in the future. You're being developed now as we're speaking. So it's not like just in the future. You're being developed. You're defining who you are. You're really getting to start to create this more confident, more grown-up version of yourself, right? Whether this is your first time Saturn's in your sign, or this is the second time, or even your third time. This is the next level of who you are. And that next level, though, gets this bird's eye view of the world, what you learned, what you didn't, and where you really want to be. Instead of like where you think you should be or where others try to tell you to be, right? Especially, or social media, right? Or even just like people that you look up to that really, maybe they want, you know, anybody trying to control you, that's going to be the number one thing, right? Never try to control a Pisces or anybody in this world, but especially a Pisces. They are the hardest to catch and they are the fastest to run away. So I think for you, it's like, you know who the control freaks are, and you got to be honest with yourself. Like, you can't try and create some sort of thing like somebody's trying to control me. Like, if they're really actually trying to help you without any fucking obligation, and you're the free to swim and do whatever you want. But with Saturn in your sign, it's good to have kind of like somebody who will call you on your shit, but not control you. But I think with that, the thing is, you've dealt with a lot of control situations where people didn't want you to express yourself. And that Mars is that battle of also, where was some of that true, but they were bad people? And where is it to where that balance of understanding, Kate, like there is creativity that'll make me feel good, but how does that affect, because Saturn's in your sign, like, is it like just do whatever the fuck you want and then, you know, end up in a crazy place? Or, you know, a lot of this is like listening to, okay, there's been some good advice, there's been some good things, and it's about that you're tasting the palate of what's possible. And it's hard because it's like, it's kind of like it's like having an event, like you're about to go to an event and you're about to throw it and you're picking out the dishes, but yet you're only getting a little morsel taste here of like, well, this is what this food tastes like and this is what this food tastes like. And so you really don't know until you have the whole thing. And it's kind of frustrating because it's also a reminder that you're not there yet. You're like not at the event, right? With your big dinner or whatever. So it's like, but enjoy these little morsels and then take the little bit of that, and you're going to have to use your imagination for that. But I think this is the moment in all Pisces life for them to bring their imagination back. You guys have amazing, the most beautiful imagination, but with Neptune, with Saturn, with the sun in Scorpio, I do think that this is about the big vision again, with Pluto being disposited in the 11th, with Mars in the 5th in the opposition. That's one of the more easy ones. I think it's hard though. You have Saturn in your sign. It's just, you're extreme delayed, especially career-wise right now. Venus in the 10th. It's more about, okay, what are the values, and looking at all the different beliefs and all the values and putting them together and starting to come up with a plan and taking your time. But, you know, this is a moment for you to find, like, how do you bring your heart into this emotionally more? And how do you make sure that you pick a spot that actually makes sense long-term, that you commit because your heart wants it, and also, you know, it's not for status or it's not for, you know, some kind of dark situation. It's for pure love, which is the only, you're fragile. Fragile. And this is a moment where I think you've learned that, you know, the world is not all that it's cracked up to be when you pay attention to the world through the lens of what other people in the world think. I think you've learned that it's about your own imagination. That what's trendy or what's cool wasn't imaginative enough. And you've waited your whole life to finally have Saturn and Neptune in your sign, while Pluto's in the 11th for the last, 25 days here, to finally, as you're building this long-term vision that comes into manifestation in 2025 and 2026, to allow yourself to go, I have the ultimate view of it all right now. And I'm getting to actually construct it, and I'm not going to follow the trendy thing. It's like, that's where the hard part is. The clash is Mars in Cancer in your fifth, your independent heart and vision of your own self-love against this cold Capricorn systematic, this is what's trendy, this is what's not. And it's like, Pisces are fragile, so it's like, well, I want to be liked. Well, what, at the sake of doing what this control system wants you to do? This is where you're breaking apart from being the tadpole that gets, or the goldfish that gets put in a bag and thrown at any circus because it's trendy and cool, and ends up there because you were doing, like, I don't know, smoking weed in the back of the parking lot, and you happen to be with a carny, and like that's over if you're ready to focus on what's your vision for the world without using the world as a lens. And more importantly, bringing back your visionary aspects. You've turned more hardcore to figure it out opposed to visionary. And it's about switching back to the visionary. But visionary with power. You've always been a visionary without the power. It's like the power to visualize, but the power to illuminate it, but the actual, not the ability to do it. Now it's a whole different game. You actually can play in this game and actually do it all. But you need to understand where that place is. It's going to take some time, so patience is a big one. And I think that for you overall, if I were Pisces, I would say, you know what? Especially, I always say this to people in their Saturn transits. Any one of us can say when Saturn's in our own sign, right? Whether you're a Leo or whether you're a fucking Scorpio or whatever. When it's in your sign, you're fucking defining who you are, and it takes forever to figure it out, and it takes forever to actually launch it. But by the end of the cycle, when you finally get there, you're like, yeah, I fucking know who I am, right? And especially if it's your rising too, same thing. Like when Saturn crosses the rising, it takes the last year, like the date or the year of age, right? So if Saturn past your rising is 6 years old, and you know, that was 30 years ago, and you're 36 and you're Pisces rising, well, yeah, you're a 6-year-old finally becoming an adult. Same thing goes for if you're a Pisces and never had Saturn, or if you're a Pisces and you had Saturn at, let's say, 10 years old and you're 40 like me, but that would have been, or 10? Well, if you're 40, that would have been close, but it would have been more Saturn. Taurus, no, Saturn, Aries. Close, but long story short is the idea is, you know, you need to take the age that the last time Saturn was in Pisces. So, how old are you? 94, 95? If you weren't around, well, stop looking out at the world because you don't know anything about it and defining who you are, and that's okay. And stop trying to rush because you'll get more upset. If you were young or you were old, that way, and is the new layer of you is coming, and one that actually understands how to deal with the world and not be so fragile and end up in carnies anymore and end up as a goldfish traded on the underground fish market and end up in Wuhan where they're trading you next to fucking actual dogs and cats with a Haitian underground buyer there. You get my drift? Is that the craziness has to end. And the only way that ends for you is to accept that you're a visionary in a world that takes a long time to make visualization and imagination happen. There's no shortcuts. You need to enjoy this moment with Jupiter in your 4th retrograde. Your midterm is realizing that you are safe and comfortable, that your mind is tripping, that you get this moment, this hall pass to figure out how to be a visionary, and allow that to be. There's no need to feel guilty because you're letting go of guilt about what you do with people, and you're also getting rid of this kind of social, like, feeling what other people think about you, that nobody's thinking about you. Nobody's observing you crazy. Only when they want something from you in the moment, and then they move 11th house, right? Then they're on the next thing if you don't show up, and you don't ever show up much. So it's like people just aren't thinking about you 24/7. I teach that to anybody dealing with 11th house extreme transits. Like, I'm sorry to say, people aren't taking shits and thinking about you. People aren't, taking their shower and thinking about you 24/7. Nobody's walking to their job thinking about you. Like, it's like, when I'm talking about like people in the world that you don't know or that you met once or twice or anything like that, or even online, nobody's thinking about you. But don't let that be fragile, because, part of this is letting go of this extreme attachment to, what the world thinks about me. And a lot of this is about being more positive and optimistic and being like, fuck, who cares what they think about me, because I'm figuring out what even I want to be. That's Saturn in your sign and Sun here in Scorpio. I think there's a great time for you. You have the ability to really make your dreams come true. And all you have to do is just stay away from crazy carnies and crazy people and trying to outpace yourself and trying to fucking rush to the race to win it in a minute when you have another whole year of Saturn in your sign. So this is about building the optimism, which you're going to need to get you through the last year. And seeing that bigger vision and seeing that bigger picture and taking some breaks and just having some moments to relax. You get to relax through a Saturn transit. Not a lot of us do. I remember the year, actually, when Saturn was in Leo in 2006 and Jupiter was in Scorpio. I remember I couldn't believe, I was like, I lost the job I had for 2.5 years and went out of business, and I was without work for 3 months, and I was on unemployment, and I had just moved into an apartment, and I had a new roommate, and she was like super cool. It was like, I understand that shit happens. If you make the bills, I don't care. I'm not going to freak out. I'm not going to tell you as a roommate, like, hey, you need to go fucking find a job or something. I was like, I know, it'll work out. And I remember just relaxing and chilling, and I was trying to define myself and all that. And it was another job I took that was my old style of job that wasn't really me, but it was me at the moment. But it's what led me to this path, right? It's like, this is where these are these things that we don't want to do that are leading you to the path. And that's part of Saturn's work. As it constructs the new you, it still is keeping together parts of yourself. But I think you got to let go of a huge part of this idea of what the world does and be more optimistic about where you're at in this moment. If anybody's the luckiest, if you really think about it, to be creative, to do things in the world that nobody's doing and be positive about that, and to really like just having a moment to kind of chill and just like learn how to nurture and take care of yourself and feel safe and not feel guilty about things, it's you. I mean, that's kind of the ultimate moment. That's kind of how the karma works, right? Like this whole Pluto Capricorn's been about setting everybody up in their destinies. Well, of course, they set up the visionary to be in this space. So why are you trying to do the opposite? Why are you trying to be uncomfortable? Why are you trying to go for the big thing right now? Why are you trying to fucking worry about what everybody thinks? Why are you not focusing on love? Why are you not like, why? Like, if you really think about it, you'll realize that is stupid. You got the devil card. Well, that Mars in the 5th, coming to Leo the 6th. You're done. You know that South Node in the 8th. I think what this is this card is saying you're trying to get a desire fast to make you feel good, and you need to be careful because, like, it really is the dark, right? Like, you need to pay attention to what you're doing this week, because I was so nice on that horoscope, but that card makes me go, the real shit is you can't fuck up. Like, Right. We're in permanent marker moment. There is no eraser. So you trying to throw 11th house crazy shit or go back to the carny or be a carny or if I could do all this crazy shit because you can't handle Saturn in your sign as it's stopping and the big square from Venus and you're just trying to be this big thing, right? That's exactly what Justin Bieber did. It's exactly what all these, they all, like Justin Bieber's in a horrible karmic fucking situation, right? Like, I don't care how much you love the kid or whatever as a Pisces or relate with him. The kid's fucking not looking good. He looks like he's Kurt Cobain at the moment. We all know what happened to him, who's a Pisces during a Saturn Pisces transit, because he sold his soul, right? So I have verification of this from like firsthand experience back in the day in the spiritual community, knowing some of this shit. Firsthand. So don't be like that right now. Oh, like, I think that you have this kind of idea that there's something out there in the 11th house, right? There's some exciting thing that'll make you feel good. It's literally to pull you out of your fucking visionary, amazing, beautiful place and it's the dark trying to take, they don't want you to be a visionary here. So guess what? They're going to feed you all the seductive qualities of something to make you feel like you're going to get something and it's going to fucking it's going to rip all that away. And that's what can happen when Pluto comes into Aquarius, especially in the next 3 weeks for 20 years. Right? You can't play around anymore with like, whatever, because it'll just take it all away and throw you in another place in the universe, right? All right. Well, those are my sun sign horoscopes. Remember that don't miss my event Friday here on highvibe.tv, here at the High Vibe TV studios, live streaming at 4 p.m. Pacific. It says 3 p.m., but I just changed it. I'll be doing full disclosure prior with Natalie. But get it now. Go to highvibe.tv, click on the X moment, all about 2025, but the biggest transit ever of March of 2025. I have those charts and video up. I just shared the video on my YouTube. I said, remember when I talked about this? And then in the comment section, all the charts. But then this is going even wider about from now till that X moment of like, holy shit, how do you not enter into this most extreme time in all human history? It's not the election. It's 2025 March into April. Okay? And there's so much more. And this is for people who really want to go into the craziest deep shit. Even people in my Hypergate class are like, you know, I do this stuff, but they don't know like all of my whole predictions about it and all of the deeper stuff of like what I really believe will happen with that exact moment and also about 2025. Like a lot of my cosmic phenomenon shit for 2024 has already come true. It's kind of scary, but it has. So Friday, if you're a true, real deep seeker, then you can see how deep I just go on a sun sign horoscope. I appreciate you all. Please share this video. That's what helps. Or you can sign up, go to highvibe.tv, although I'm not going to be doing pressure things. Like if you don't want to go to High Vibe, don't go to High Vibe. But if you want to fucking go. And coming up with a couple of things, like maybe you just want to be on my Substack or my email list where I'll be putting stuff up. But I just appreciate you all. I appreciate for people sharing all the stuff that I've been putting out for such a long time now. It's been a wild journey. You know, I'm on, well, past the Jupiter return, but yeah. I've been doing this a long time now, and I appreciate it. And, you know, I hope people know that I feel really good being back and actually in the most chill space I've ever been for this community. And just relying on that, you know, I know that I'm a steady rock, even though most people think I'm not, but as far as always showing up to do that fucking light work, even though people see that I'm a human too, and I have fucking metal shit I want to go do in the world, or DJ, or race, or fucking pop off, do crazy shows, and do all these things in the middle of my journey, or now be a father and be married and like building a family, like, you know, like you never know what you're going to get, but you know what you're going to get with the astrology. Well, and I ain't ever going gay, so don't ever go there either. I appreciate you all. Much love to you all. Remember, don't go woke either. Go spiritually awake. It's another thing that you know is the dark. Anything that is woke. I appreciate you all. Adios. Bye-bye. Trailer for what you're going to be watching on Friday. Bye now.
Have you ever felt the universe pulling you towards something greater? A moment when everything changes, a pivotal point in history? That moment is now. The cosmos is aligning. Ancient prophecies, astrological signs, and secret codes all point to this singular event, the X moment. On Friday, October 25th, 2024, at 3 p.m. Pacific, join us live as David Palmer, the Leo King, unveils secrets long hidden from the world. Secrets decoded from the works of his Hypergate schools and 12 years of decoding. This isn't just another live stream. It's your final call to power. Imagine unlocking unprecedented personal strength, transforming your life with knowledge reserved for the select few, ascending to a higher state of being during humanity's greatest shift. Every civilization has its defining moment. This is the one that defines all civilization. This is yours, but time is running out. Hundreds of thousands have already embarked on this journey with David Palmer. They've transformed their lives. Now it's your turn. Do you want to fully understand the Leo King's biggest prediction in all time? The window to transform your destiny is closing fast. Will you let this moment slip away? Or will you step forward and claim the future that awaits you? Join us live on High Vibe TV, accessible worldwide. Visit highvibe.tv to secure your spot now. Prepare for a life-altering experience that will elevate your consciousness and unlock your true potential. The X moment is here. Are you ready to seize your destiny, or just think it's another day in time?